All right, you're back here on the Gill Athletics Connections podcast. So humbled again. You hear me say it every week. I am humbled that you press play today on this podcast, and just grateful for that, and super excited for this week's guest. We've had some bangers here every week, man. We just keep stacking them up, and the party continues. I'm super excited. This guy's a friend. Peer. I've known him since he was an athlete. It's amazing. I can't wait to share with you his journey. Help me welcome the head coach from Eastern Washington University, the wise, the wonderful Mr. Erin Tucker. Tuck, how are you, sir?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Appreciate the nice introduction. I couldn't have done it better myself.
Oh, you humble me. You humble me. And what's going on, man? How's life in what city is Eastern Washington in?
We're in Cheney. We're in Cheney, Washington. So we're about 20 minutes from Spokane.
And it's Cheney, not Cheney. I don't know. I know it's spelled E-N, but I think in my head I always said Cheney.
Like we had a vice president who spelled his name the same way this town is, and everybody called him Dick Cheney. When I had my interview, I literally was correcting them in my interview on the Zoom. And I was like, yeah, you guys can call it Cheney, but it's Cheney. And
Yeah.
so yeah, it's Cheney is how they pronounce it. But in my mind, in your mind, and
Yeah,
everybody
yeah,
else's
yeah.
mind, if
Yeah.
someone says Cheney, we just let them go. But people that are from this area really get offended when you say it the wrong way.
Okay, I'll
Absolutely.
remember that if when I'm there, because I've been down there. So how far are you from Spokane?
20 minutes.
Oh yeah. Okay. So I did Spokane a few trips when I was working on their facility
Yep, in the
down
podium.
there in Spokane. Yeah, yeah. That's a beautiful area down there. A little tough to get to as far as if you're not around there. Easy for you to get there. It's harder
Yeah.
for me to get there. But that's a beautiful place. The whole area. I really enjoyed my visits there.
Yeah, and the podium is 15 minutes from the airport. So
Dude, is
yeah,
that right?
yeah,
Oh
yeah. We
man.
we we definitely have an international airport. I
Yeah.
actually flew out of my airport last summer on my honeymoon to the Maldives. So we flew from
Yeah.
here to Seattle, Seattle to Singapore, Singapore to Male. So it's
Wow.
an international airport, man, and I get all my recruits in and out. I have no issues. I don't have to go to
Nice.
Seattle or anywhere. And we service most of Idaho on the North Panhandle, and we
Nice.
service a lot of Montana as well.
Yeah, of course, you're right there on the border, right? Yeah,
Yep, yep, yep.
Quarter Lanes right there, I think, if I
Elaine,
remember.
yep,
Yeah,
yep.
yeah, yeah. I've flown in there for other business meetings before. Yeah, beautiful area. I really do love it. And and we'll get there eventually. But when you earned the position of the head coach there, I mean, I was happy for you because it's like, oh, went to a nice university, nice area. Like, okay,
Yep.
you can do some things there. I was really, really happy for you, and I'm
Yeah,
very
well, I appreciate that.
excited to learn more about that. Well, let's get in our Wayback Machine here. Let's learn a little bit more about you, Tuck. Somewhere, and normally I say, assuming you were an athlete. There's no assumption here. I know you
Right,
so well. I know
right.
you're an athlete, but talk to us about where does track and field start for you?
Crazy. So my older sister, God bless her soul, she passed away from cancer a few years ago. She's 3 years older than me. So she started running track at Bishop Loughlin High School in Brooklyn.
Okay.
And I remember the first day she came over to practice, and I was like, "So, how was it? What are you gonna do? And I'm just excited because she's in sports, and I had done any sports up until that point. So this was her ninth grade year, and she was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "So you faster than everybody on the team?" She was like, "It's a little bit different. It's not like fast, but it's kind of all relative." And I'm a long distance runner. I said, "What is that?" And she was like, "I'm a long distance runner." And I was like, "Do you run fast?" She was like, "When I have to." And I was like, "So I don't even understand what long distance means." She was like, "Well, you probably will be a sprinter." And I said, "A who?" I had no idea the
Wait, so you
term
didn't even
before.
have an idea. You just knew
I didn't even
fast.
know what long distance runners were, sprinters. I was like, "So do you get to jump?" And she was like, I didn't say I was a jumper. And I was like, "Do you throw anything?" She was like, "I didn't say I was a thrower. I'm a long distance runner, and you would probably be a sprinter." And so that was a Monday, and I'm just coasting her up all week, all week. "You want to race? Let's race, let's race, let's race." And so she was like, "Let's just race around the block. One city block in Brooklyn, circle block." And so the front of our house was a shorter distance. Obviously, you turn left, and then I was a longer distance, and then shorter distance on the backside, and then long distance come home. So we start the race, boom, I'm out of there. I'm laughing. I hit the corner, look back at her. Well, I look back, she's just running at her pace. I'm out of there. I get to the middle of the block and I'm just laughing. I'm laughing too much. And I'm just like, oh, I can chill, I can relax. Legs starting to get a little heavy and I don't understand what's going on. And I'm like, she's still far away. So I turn left, going to the other side of the block, and I see her turn the corner and I seen her start picking it up. And so I start picking it up. And so I get to the other corner and she's like, "Hey, how you feeling?" And I was like, "Leave me alone," just yelling at her. And she did that on purpose because that was the first time she talked or laughed the entire time. I'm wasting energy, wasting energy. she comes up next to me and then she was like, "You ready to go?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And I don't have form, so I'm just doing my what I feel. But I was just, "Wait, what?" And she was like, "You ready to go?" And then I was like, "Where are we going?" And then she was like, "I'm out of here." And she just walked away
No
from me like
way.
somebody would be on the highway and a motorcycle guy looks at you and just walks away and you couldn't do anything. Hit the corner, turn left. She's sitting there and she's drinking some water. And she was like, "How you felt?" And I was like, "Let's race again." And I was like, "I was laughing too
Ooh.
much. I was laughing too much." She was like, "No, you just didn't know how to pace yourself." And I was like, "So why you didn't tell me?" She was like, "No, you're a sprinter. You said you faster than me. Why do I have to tell you what to do? You weren't going to listen to me anyway." And so that was my first time racing.
Dude.
Racing in track terms because I would
Right, right.
race my friends on their bikes, on their skateboards. No one in the neighborhood could beat me. That's the first time I lost a race in my life.
Oh, okay.
From as far as I can remember. That was the first race I lost in my life. I was in seventh grade and I was like, hold up, that's not a real race. That doesn't count.
What do you know, because you have so much experience now, what do you guesstimate that circle was? Was that a 400
I'm
meters,
thinking,
more or
I'm
less?
thinking the shorter parts might have been about 75.
Okay.
The longer parts could have been, it could have been a cool 200. This is
Yeah,
New
yeah,
York
yeah.
City
Yeah,
block. You
yeah,
know
that's what I'm
how
trying to think. Yeah, yeah,
it's,
yeah.
yeah, man. So
Yeah.
it was more than a 400. I'm gonna say that.
That's
That's what
funny.
I'm a roll on that one.
And you had no real idea about track and field. You knew there were sprinters, you knew there was something to jump, and you knew there was something to throw, but you didn't know like hurdles, you didn't know
No,
triples, like you didn't know like
nothing.
so there's no track. You're not watching track on T, it's the
I'm watching
Olympics.
track on TV,
Yeah,
but I'm watching people run fast. I'm watching,
yeah.
Carl Lewis and those guys run fast. And I'll be
Right.
honest with you, for all the distance runners and lovers of
Yeah.
distance races that are listening to this, I'm going to apologize for young Erin. But whenever the distance stuff came on, I went to the bathroom.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I'll be honest with you. And sometimes you miss a hurdle race or two. So I didn't even recognize the
Uh,
hurdles. 400 hurdles. I discovered 400 hurdles when I was in college when we were talking about the great Edwin Moses. And they was like, "Man, he's been undefeated." I was like, "What do you mean undefeated?" It was like, "Man, he hasn't lost a race." And I think at that point, it could have been 10 years or it could have been 8 or 9, but I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
really remember. I was like, "What do you mean undefeated? A pro? Nobody beats him?" Like, what? So fast forward to ninth grade, I run at Manhattan College,
Okay.
and my very first race was the 300. And it was a waterfall start because I was in like heat 500. It was I think it might have been the Bishop Loughlin games and they did it in Manhattan College on a rubber track at that time.
All right.
Basketball court in the middle, and so you running around and so I finished the race. I won my heat. Come over to the team. I was like, yeah, they can't see me, and I'm kind of tired. I'm kind of dead, but I'm not as tired as I was when I finished the race. And so these guys was like, "Man, you hit a wall." And I was like, "What you mean? I ran past and I touched the wall, but I didn't hit the wall. What are you talking about?" They was like, "Man, you got out of there because the guy bumped me and I took a step off the track and I just put my head back, no technique, and I spun the block and I was out of there just as hard as I could. Wasn't looking back, learned my lesson from my sister 2 years prior, and I was just running balls to wall. And then the last 50 meters or the last straightaway, I just felt like I couldn't move, and I was like, I don't understand what's happening right now. I felt like this only on one other time and when I raced my sister, and I was at the end of it, and I was like, but this is shorter, and so when they talked about hitting the wall, and I was like, they was like, yeah, man, the monkey jumped in. I was like, oh, so that's what I felt at the end. That's y'all calling that the wall or the
That's
monkey. I
funny.
was like, oh, and the entire time I thought because I didn't know about heats. I was like, I'm still undefeated, so it don't matter. And it was like, what you mean you're still
I
undefeated? I was like, man, I could count this my sister's loss, but I never lost a race in my life. And it was like, you need to go look at the results after you cool down. And I was like, for what? I won. I won my race. They was like, you won your heat. And I was like, what you talking
was a
about?
heat. Yeah.
What's the heat? It's not hot outside. Like, what are you talking about? All these different words
Dude,
that people are
you're
using to describe.
so what I love about this, first of all, that you're so green because that's hard for me to even imagine that with you.
Right.
Second of all, that is great perspective to our young kids that come into our sport. And we know it all. We know what heats are and hitting the wall. And these kids, some of them know nothing, zero.
No
Like
clue.
you're at stage -1, not even zero on what you know about track heats and all that kind of stuff. Dude, that's
Ninth grade,
hilarious.
ninth
Yeah.
grade, nothing.
What is coach? It's one thing for your boys and all that stuff to, be getting on you. I love that aspect. What a great part of our sport. What about coach? What is he or she saying to you about the 300 and how you did and what you could have done better? Anything like that at this
So
point?
Coach Cornfield, the great Dennis Cornfield, Uniondale High School, and he actually still announces the New Balance meets at the Armory. He's announcing at the Armory as well. A lot of the high school meets there. So Cornfield's my guy. And so I go up to him and his wife, Sue. She's amazing, assistant coach, but she wasn't a coach, but she's the mother of the team. So you
Right.
know how it
Yep.
goes. And so, I go up to him and I was like, you know, so coach, what can I do different? And he was like, well, first of all, you could have got disqualified because you stepped off the track. And I was like, he pushed me. He was like, I didn't ask you that.
Another thing that we don't think about that a kid would be like, no, he pushed me. So I got back on. Yeah. Yeah.
And so in my mind, and as I thought about it when he talked to me, I was like, I took a step and I probably took 3 or maybe 4 steps,
Right.
but I got to the front and I took off and he was like, we just got to work on managing our energy. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And he
That's
was
how
like,
you win, man.
he was like, you went too hard, too fast, and you got to build into it. And I was like, okay, and so I ran the 4x4 later that day and I built into it all right because I left everything for the last turn and straightaway and passed a bunch of people and we were out of it and I was like, so is that like that? He was like, we just gotta work. He was like, we gotta work on doing things different.
Can we get in the middle there, Tuck?
Right. He was like, I'll talk to you about some different things. And Sue was like, well, Dennis, he's all right. This is his first time, and it was cool. I learned a lot. I learned that you're not supposed to sprint the entire thing, and I also learned you're not supposed to jog and then try to sprint the end. So it's just trying to figure out my happy medium. So
Now, a lot of times, I love that in our first practice or first meet where the monkey jumps on our back or whatnot. Sometimes that's a big, and you had to have seen this, I'm sure, a big decision point for kids of like, you know what, maybe this isn't for me, and they
yeah.
go off and do something else, right? You obviously stuck with it. What was it about track and some of the pain that you're going through in high school in regards to going out too fast and dying, all that kind of stuff? What was it about track that kept you coming back? And did you play any other sports?
So I played football.
Nice.
And okay, so ninth grade football season ended in at Turtle Hook Junior High. It was 7th, 8th, and ninth. High school was 10, 11, 12. So
Okay.
we were at the high school, at the junior high, ninth grade, but we would cut through the woods or take the bus over or to my drive, but we would get through over to the high school for practice. My ninth grade group, it was 5 of us, maybe 6 of us. We had 2 guys from Lawrence Road Junior High and then 2 guys from Turtle Hook. And I'm talking about back then in the 90s, those schools did not like each other.
Mm-hmm.
The women weren't fighting as much, but the guys were fighting because of you're at a different school. You talk to my girlfriend. It was, we had great camaraderie within the school, but it was like Lawrenceburg versus Turtle Hook. And
Right.
still to this day, you hear my guys on Facebook cracking jokes on each other. And, it's gotten a little bit better, and then even the elementary schools, they had the elementary schools that fed into both of the junior highs. You had those groups. I was like, you're talking about something that you did when you was in 6th grade?
Right,
Like,
right.
what is happening? I'm from Brooklyn, so I moved out there the year prior,
Okay.
and so I missed track. I missed football. So anyway, football season ends, go out for basketball. They let all the guys that were on the ninth grade team try out, and it was about 3 more of us that were trying out after the first week of tryouts because football season was still going.
All right.
Now, I never played organized basketball, but I know I can ball. I know I can ball, right? So I felt pretty good about the tryouts. And when the list came out, the very final cut, I just had the one day. I had Friday and Saturday, and then the list came out on Sunday. We went out there to check it out, and I didn't make the team. And I was like, I know in gym class and even before after school, I was like, it's at least, and I said that, I was like, it's at least 5 of y'all that can't hold me. I don't even know how I didn't make the team, And I was like, so you're gonna be thinking about me when you're on the bench because you're not gonna play. I'm bitter. I'm bitter. I'm a ninth grader talking trash. I'm from Brooklyn. You Long Island kids can't beat me. The coach was like, hey, Tuck, come here. And I was like, what's up, coach? He was like, you had a lot of aggression, in your face defense I could probably use. I don't think you understand the sport. So maybe take this year to learn basketball, and he wasn't really coaching. He was just watching us play pickup. He was like, if a guy steps up to you to set a screen, I had no idea what a screen was. A guy sets a screen for you and rolls off it. He would expect the ball, but not for you to run around and beat him to the basket. And I was like, I got buckets though. And he was like, yeah, but you weren't playing within the realms of the game. And I would say back then, ninth grade Aaron was Russell Westbrook.
Hmm.
And I don't think Russell Westbrook back then would have gotten the ability to be who he is.
Right.
He was the most athletic guy on the court. He could shoot sometimes. He'll get to the cup, played great defense when he wanted to, but I think I was more in your face. But he was just like, no, that's not what we need. And we need some guys that understand the system and understand what's going on. He was like, but when we were doing the skill stuff after practice, I mean, not the skills, but the conditioning, you were talking to people and motivating people, and it didn't seem like you was running. Were you not tired? I was like, Coach, this stuff didn't make me tired. Like, no. He was like, you should go out for track. I was like, man, I don't want to go out for track. And then told my dad about it. He was like, well, Michael Jordan got cut from his ninth grade basketball team. I was like, okay.
What a story. I love that.
I was like, okay, that's going to be me. But, once I got to track, started running, enjoying it, I'm a competitive person. I recognized and realized that I probably wasn't the best looking guy on the track team, but the faster you got, the more the girls wanted to talk to you. As a ninth grader, that was a huge influence. So being competitive and then wanting to be around this co-ed sport, my high school coach literally used to tell us to recruit guys on a football team. And what he would do is he would have the guys come to that meet at Manhattan College, just take the bus with us and just watch. Don't even race, just watch, just to see if you want to do it. Monday, you would have half the football team want to be on the track team because they didn't see that many women in one place in their life. And so it would filter out, once you throw up at practice or you hit the wall, and then you will filter out. But we would still get some good guys that would stay on the team just because they became competitive, because we would talk trash to them. And, they were like, oh, Tuck can't beat me. And it was like, well, he can, but he's not going to beat me as bad as he used to be able to.
I almost called the podcast the Mythbusters podcast. And one of the myths is, high school coaches can't coach college because they don't recruit, blah, blah, blah. And then I hear stories like that. I'm like, man, our high school coaches are recruiting their tails off every single day in that high school. It's like, you may not be able to do that in college with that example, but that coach, he knew what he needed to do. Like, all right, I need 5, 6, 7, 8 football guys. Well, I mean, hey, just come. Like, first of all, who would do that? I love the kind of that audacity of like, hey, just come on the bus with us. All good. You're not even the meet. Just come, just take a look, see what you like. What a smart dude, man. That guy was just
absolutely,
absolutely. I love that. So played football and track all through high school?
Yeah. So played football. I prided myself as being the fastest guy in Nassau County my last year in football. Just in football, we were a running team. I was a wide receiver, a DB. So, I'm out there making tackles and setting blocks, a couple reverses here and there. What I know about football now, because I think video games help. That's why these playbooks are so much more massive than they were when I was in school. We were a veer option team, dive, pitch, hold, reverses here and there. We had, our route tree was probably 5 or 6 routes. And it wasn't until like maybe my second or third year in college, I was like, I really messed that one up. I messed that up. That stuff was not hard. I really messed that up. How was I not better? And I'm saying all of this because don't tell Mouse, but I was playing flag football while I was at Florida in the fall.
Boy.
With my fraternity.
Better than basketball? I don't know.
Better than basketball.
Yeah, but still.
And I was killing these guys, and I was just like, I don't know how I wasn't better in football, because I just didn't understand what was going on play-wise for coaches to even dial anything up. Hand the ball, short route, quarterback couldn't give me the ball at times. It was so, I did it. It was great to be out there with my buddies, and we recruited a lot of those guys on the track team as well.
Yeah, love that. What so you ran track all 4 years, and you kind of let the next chapter here spill out a little bit. You said Mouse, so obviously we know you went to the University of Florida. But how did you get from stay in high school with me here? Yep. How did you get from the extremes of running a 300 400 meter race, going all out and dying, and then going to the 4x4 and jogging it until the last 50? How did you get from that, Aaron Tucker, to good enough to be recruited to Florida? Talk me through high school a little bit there.
So 10th grade, was on with a group of guys that were pretty good 4x4. These were older guys, so I was like the baby in the pack. My college roommate went to Uniondale, and he was the baby of the pack for the 4x1 guys. And so, we had that going on, and we had a couple other guys that were kind of alternates that was in my class. And so our 10th grade class was still fairly small. We had a couple more guys come on, but we were starting. You can start to see the future we were building. We had a bunch of ninth graders coming up underneath us. 11th grade, it's kind of, we had a young man on our team, Marvin Ford. He was like all world long jumper, national champion, 20-point 4x2 indoor split. And so running on relays with him, we had a guy, Greg Davis, who actually went to UPenn. He broke the New York State record in 55. So you have those two guys, my ankle leg, Kamal Dorsonville. He went to University of Maryland Eastern Shore. And so I was basically the third wheel with those three seniors. And so we won the national championship indoor in the 4x2, 4x4. I will say that I got the baton in the back of the 4x4 and handed off in front, and we kept the lead. 4x2, I got the stick in first, and I was running for my life to not get caught. Same thing, pin relays. We made the Championship America in the 4x1 and the 4x4. Yeah. I dropped the stick in the 4x1. We ran 44.4. TC Williams ran 40.5. I split 14 seconds. I dropped it, picked it up on one scoop, and we were the second top two teams. So who knows if we would have won or not. 4x4, Championship America. I think we ended up getting fourth or fifth. Our ankle leg was a little sick that morning.
You guys were stacked.
You run the relay in the morning and the afternoon, and he was really sick afterwards. And we got lucky because Bill Cosby was at 20 meters from the finish line waving people in, and he was coming on the kid from St. Jago, and he stopped at the wrong line. Bill Cosby, where he was, and my guy ran through it, outleaned him, and he was the whole time like, me don't know the line. He was at the line telling us to come. And, it was just like, hey, you got to know where the finish line is.
Right. That's right.
So we won our heat, made it to the final. And, so that junior year kind of put me on the map, and, with those guys recruiting. And, I give Marvin Ford a lot of credit. He did a great job of letting Ralph Spry, many years at Auburn. He recruited me, and he recruited Marvin, and he told him about me and my buddy Kristen Lightbourne, who was a hurdler. Our senior year in high school, he won the national championship indoor in the 55, and he broke the national record en route in 50. He had that record for a long time because nobody was running 55s, and they weren't keeping that tag. He committed to Florida really early. I was like, I got to blaze my own trail. I don't want to go where everybody else is going. I don't want to be the third wheel again. I want to do my own thing. And
did you hold on right there? Because we know you go to Florida, and, I'm from Alabama, and I was born in Florida. So I'm a big, SEC Homer fan.
Yep.
So I grew up, a fan of the SEC and things like that. Where you're growing up, are you a fan of a college through high school? Like, are you a St. John's guy or
St. John's at Syracuse?
Is that right? Okay, in Syracuse. Why I was thinking those two. I said Philly. Okay, so are you, as you start going in, we're talking about blazing your own trail, are you thinking of those kind of colleges or?
So Syracuse had a football camp that all the guys would go to every summer. And they would come back with drills and stuff. So everybody was Syracuse football, but that's still, I want to blaze my own trail. I don't want to go to Syracuse. I don't want to go to St. John's. Their track team wasn't great. Seton Hall, Great Moon, that was a great place. Coach Moon never called, never recruited. So, no offense.
Wow, that's even more surprising because of the 400, right? And that was, a little bit of his bread and butter there. Yeah.
Pin relays, the Hall, you know what I mean? That's just something. But I will be honest, in high school, I finished up at 21-2 and 48 flat. So, I ran 54 in the 400 hurdles my junior year, but my senior year, I focused on the 2 and the 4. I actually started running the 400 hurdles because I couldn't beat the seniors. Really? So I was like, let me run the 400 hurdles so I could qualify for state, so I could qualify for the Empire State Games. I did things like that just so I could be part of it, but it's my own thing. And then my senior year, I was like, man, nobody, these guys can't beat me in the 2 and the 4, and so that's what I focused on because my high school coach is going to make us run relays. So I knew I was running 4x1, 4x4, indoor, 4x2, 4x4, and then I would run the 300 indoor at the state meet. I qualified for state. It's funny, 10th grade, I qualified for state in the 300 indoor, and I had a cast on. I ran with a cast on my arm, and it was absolutely
from
ridiculous.
Football?
No,
you literally ran into the wall finally?
No, just, in high school, guys tend to joke around,
Screwing
was
around is what I'm hearing. Okay.
boxing.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
call it slap
yeah.
boxing. I went to slap one of my friends and he walked into my fist and I still have a broken knuckle from that walk in. Yeah, he
No
staggered.
way.
I grabbed my hand. We continued playing basketball.
Of course. Yeah. That did
I
not
get
stop
home
us.
and it was in October. No, let me think. It was November, December-ish because we shouldn't have been outside playing because it was cold. And once I got home and thawed out, I was like, Mom, I don't know what's wrong with my hand, but I can't see my knuckle and it hurts. And she was like, You've been in the house for 2 hours. What's it hurt? And she was like, I don't know. It just hurts. Went to the doctor and got a cast put on. So
you're running a ton of relays. You're focused
mhm.
on the 2 and the 4. And did normally I don't ask or talk about people's PRs because it doesn't matter to me, right? I don't care if you're a
Right,
58-second quarter mile or a 44-second. That doesn't mean anything to me at all.
right.
But I think I heard you say your PRs were like 48 and 21.
21-2 and 48 flat.
So nothing
No.
even I don't want to say necessarily life is different today in 2025, but it's pretty crazy out there. But even back then, that's not blazing. Like there were still
It's not
plenty of kids
blazing.
better
My
than that.
relay splits were 47 low,
Yeah.
indoor. I probably split 20 point, so it was primarily Coach Cornfield is a master of recruiting you or recruiting a school to come get you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like I said, Marvin was great with Florida and getting Ralph to turn to understand. And, ultimately I was going to go to Ohio State.
Is that right?
I committed to Ohio State on my visit.
Coach Russ Rogers, right? Back then?
Coach Rush Rogers and Jack
Yeah.
Warner. Jack Warner was the one that did
Jack
most of the
Warner.
calls.
Yeah, that's right.
And they came to my house, visited with my mom. I'm trying to think, they were the only school that had an in-home visit with me.
Hmm.
I loved Iowa. Pat McGee was great because I wanted to do the 400 hurdles under him. Georgetown, Gagliano wanted me to kind of run the 4, 6, and 8, and I was like, I don't know about that. But he did tell me if I came, he would let me try out for football. And according to a couple other guys that were in my same recruiting class, they said it was a lie. He wouldn't let anybody play football. And I was like, oh man, I've dodged a bullet on that one. You know what I mean? So, that was my group. I wanted Texas. Texas didn't want me.
Sure.
I wanted Auburn. Willie Smith went to my high school, Auburn. The great Harvey Glance. I wasn't on his level yet, and even Curtis Fry, he was at North Carolina. It was a couple of young ladies and a couple guys in New York that went there, and he was like, yeah, you could come to Raleigh Community College for a year and prove yourself. I know you'd be fast. I don't have money for you, and I can fast forward this story to when I got to Florida. Yeah. Well, years later, I think when I won conference, he was like, Tuck, I knew I should have signed you. And I was like, well, you didn't.
he was a big New York, New Jersey guy. Like as far as recruiting, he got all the good ones out of there. He did a great job.
Yeah. So, I committed to Ohio State. I told them after I committed that I have a visit set up to go to Florida, and I don't have to go if you don't want me to go. And this was the week after Penn Relays, my senior year. And they was like, no, go ahead and go on vacation. It'd be great. The papers would be home when you get there. And when they came to visit me and my mom, obviously now as a coach, I didn't know they didn't bring the scholarship papers because you're not supposed to sign in front of the coaches. And I just thought they didn't want me. I thought they, I'm an idiotic senior in high school. I don't know anything.
Yeah.
I go to Florida wide. My mind is open to the possibilities. I get off the plane first weekend in May in Orlando. Ralph picks me up and we drive to Gainesville and it's 85 degrees. I don't have shorts. I was like, wow, this is nice. I love the heat. Get to campus, semester's almost ending. I think it might have been finals week and not a lot of people on campus, but it was hot and I don't remember anything about the visit other than the fact that I did a workout when everybody finished up and then he came and got me and took me to dinner. But, so I came back from Florida and I told my mom, Florida offered me 85%, Ohio State offered me a 4. I told my mom, I was like, I think I want to go to Ohio State. And she was just like, what do you mean you think? I mean, if I want to go to Florida, she's like, what do you mean you think you want to go to Florida? I was like, I don't know, Mom. I like she was like, you only want to go to Florida because of the heat and the girls. In my mind, yes.
Yes, ma'am.
I can't tell Mom. I was like, no, but Marvin's there. Chris is going. I was like,
Mr. Blaze your own path. All my guys are there. The path has been strewn, Mom. I can go.
Right. And she was like, you're going to turn down a full scholarship to hang out with your friends and look at girls in sundresses and bikinis? I was just like, No, no, they got
Mom was the best Florida recruiter, it sounds like.
right. I was like, but the academics. She was like, the academics, and she was upset with me for about a week, maybe a week and a half, not really talking to me, just high and by, and answer questions. And so I was slowly chopping away every day. I would come and sit next to her and be like, "What you doing? Nothing. Watching TV. What you think I'm doing?" She didn't want to talk to me about it. And then finally, she was like, "Well, you got to do what you got to do." And I was like, I know, I was gonna be fine, Mom. She was like, so my mom and my dad split my meals. So I had everything, but I had breakfast was the only meal. Everything else paid for. I had breakfast, and so lunch and dinner. Typically not going to really eat lunch every day, make sandwiches in your room. And so my dad paid for dinner in the fall. She paid for dinner in the spring.
Yeah. Wow.
So she was like, I'm gonna make your dad pay now because I don't trust he'll pay. And just to kind of throw it out there, my dad and me, we were joking about this the other day because my 16-year-old son just moved in with me 2 weeks ago. Right. And I told my dad, that he was moving in. I was like, I would have came and live with you, but and my dad was addicted to crack and drank for 30 years of my life.
Yeah.
And so I was like, man, if you wasn't a crackhead, I would have lived with you in Virginia. And he was just like, I know. He was like, I know, just nonchalant, joking around about it. And he was like, yeah, me and your mom talked about that many times and what it would have been like, but I just couldn't get my stuff together.
Yeah,
so, it is what it is.
First of all, a lot to unpack there. My first question actually is about Dad. Dad's good now, yeah?
Yeah, he's great. He's great.
Oh, that's awesome.
Retired. He retired from UGA. He worked at the law school, physical plant. He retired a few years ago, and he's great.
Clean, healthy.
Yeah, man. He's
bro.
Yeah, he's good. He lives in Georgia still, in Watkinsville, in that area. He's
yeah. Dude, I love that because we all need forgiveness. We all need second, third, fourth, fifth chances. And there's a guy. I love that they had some self-awareness about like, yeah, man, you can't live with me as a high school. I'm not in a good place. I love that self-awareness, and it turned out great. I mean,
yeah,
you
for sure.
Him, yeah, I love that. That's cool. That's awesome. I love hearing that.
We talked a lot through high school, especially when I started running faster. I was always calling him, letting him know what's going on, and I think more so my personality is always reach out. And so some people are just like, well, I didn't hear from so-and-so. I could have easily been like, well, my dad don't call me. I was like, no, I got a phone. I can call him too.
Yeah.
And so anytime somebody in my life was like, oh, I ain't heard from you in a while, I was like, I know. That's crazy that you got a phone too. Because we get caught up. We get caught up. And so I always, man, I haven't talked to so-and-so in a while, and I get on the phone. What you doing?
Yeah. That you didn't, I'm gonna call it a 16-year-old, as a high schooler, you didn't allow that to be an excuse. Kind of tells us a little bit about some maturity levels that you were at in high school, like a little bit higher, because most high school, I'm dealing with one. I'm sorry. My son is a teenager, which if you know a teenager, I'm dealing with one, right?
I know exactly what you're dealing with.
And it's easy, if I weren't there, if I lived somewhere else, I could easily see him like, well, you don't call me. I could easily see him saying that, and wouldn't be mad. I'd be like, yeah, you're probably right. I'm the adult here or whatever.
I'm the adult, right?
I get that. So that you were like, hey, I'm okay. He don't call me. Cool. I'm gonna call him and check in. I love that. Just again, it kind of gives us a little peek as far as the maturity of where you're at as a teenager. Okay, another thing to unpack there. This came up here recently on social media. I probably forgot to warn you. I'm a little bit of and I'm a little bit of a tangent guy. So we're going to try to keep in chronological order, but there's going to be things you talk about that I'm like, man, people need to hear more about this. You talked about being a lot of a relay guy, and there's two states. One is very famous, but there's actually two states in high school that double the relay points. So Texas is the most famous one, but we forget that actually right north of them, Oklahoma also doubles their relay points. And there's always a huge discussion about that, because that means obviously if you're a high school coach, you're trying to win a state title, you better have relays. I'm pretty sure, I just can't imagine a world where if you don't win a relay, you don't win a state meet. It's 20 points for crying out loud, right?
Right.
And so, there's been a lot of discussion back and forth of like, well, it's not good. It's not good for kids. They don't get recruited. They stay on the relays all season, and they have the 4x1, 4x2, and 4x4, I believe, down there. You can't get recruited. Relay teams, coaches don't recruit off of relay teams, yada, 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 and all this kind of stuff. And my pushback is, well, first of all, I think track is a team environment. So I kind of like that the relays doubled. It's kind of neat. I think maybe we should do that everywhere. But also I kind of push back on you can't get recruited if you're only a relay kid, no matter how fast you necessarily are. And I just think, I think that comes a lot to the power four or bust, D1 or bust maybe mentality. It's like, I told this one coach, he's a great dude. I love him to death. We got into it on social, but we're very good friends. So I hope that people didn't take it the wrong way. But I told him, I was like, I have not thousands, I have hundreds of NAIA D3, D2, and D1 coaches, by the way, and JUCO coaches every day on Twitter asking for kids. I was like, so something tells me they would talk to those kids. It's like,
Yep.
so maybe it's the coach or the kid doesn't want to talk to them and says, I don't
Yep.
get recruited when Florida's not calling you. I'm sorry, maybe you're just not ready for Florida today. It's just what it is. What were your thoughts being primarily a relay runner?
I thought it was amazing. Like, especially when I went into Florida, the first thing was who's on a 4x1, who's on a 4x4. I actually asked about a 4x2. They was like, we don't really do a
Yeah,
4
they
by
don't
2
know. Yeah, yeah.
That's somebody was like, that's like NASCAR. And I was like, okay, 4x2, that just know how to pass sticks. So I think it's great what Texas and Oklahoma does. I wish more states would do that.
Yeah.
One of the things, just a quick fast forward to my time at Kentucky, when James Thomas, head coach of Oklahoma, when we were together, his first year, he was like, man, you need to look at the guys at Texas that are third and fourth in their district meet or the regional meet, whichever one is the one. He was like, because they're probably going to state on the relay, but just because they didn't make it to state, people don't know about them. And I was like, oh my God, I've been coaching for how many years and I never thought about that. You know what I'm saying? Like, whoa. And so I literally started doing that because when I got to Illinois to coach, I was calling the top 10 kids in the country. And I was like, I don't care. Top 10 kids in the country and the best in my state. I didn't care about anybody else.
Right.
And it was like, but you're not getting all those guys. You're not getting half of those guys. You're not getting a third of those guys. And then you're just sitting there looking like, okay, so what do I have? My first few years of recruiting, I was striking out left and right. I was in Final Fives. I was in living rooms. I was in households. But yeah, that's something that if I knew that beforehand, I probably would have some Texas guys that Illinois would be.
I think that's a great point. A lot of times, and it's usually extroverted type people that maybe lend themselves to being a little bit better recruiters. Plenty of introverts can be and are really good recruiters as well. But I think people tend to think like, oh, I can recruit. Look, I'm friendly. I can talk to anybody. And it's like, yeah, that's this much of it. Maybe this much. But to your point about like, oh, well, I'm at Illinois or wherever, I'm only going to call the top 10 kids. It's like, whoa, that is not being a good recruiter because you are not going to get all or any or one of those top kids.
Right.
And you still ain't going to survive. So learning how to recruit your institution also, by the way, changes.
Absolutely.
What level, et cetera, that changes how you recruit too. And you got to learn that. I mean, that's a learning process. It really is.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. You go to Florida. Now, I've heard you say Ralph's name 100 times. Love Ralph. One of my very good friends. Love him to death. I need to get my son. We were talking before about my son bass fishing. I need to get him and Ralph hooked up because Ralph from fishing, bro. Oh my God. That might be the guy, the adult in my life that I know fishes more than anybody in the world. And, but I'm not hearing you really say much about Mouse. And to me and a lot of people, Mouse, when you say Florida, you automatically think of Mouse. Where's Mouse? Now you get to college. Where's Mouse in your life and your culture as far as athletics? And I know him well enough off athletics as well, off the track.
So Mouse was Buchholz High School head coach. And, we.
Oh, wait. When you went to Florida, he was still
Florida.
Oh, well, that makes sense why you're not saying Mouse's name.
Yeah. So
he was still at Buchholz.
They would come out and practice at the track every so often because they had a cement track, so they would come out and do exchanges, and they were faster than us. They had a faster 4x1 than we had. I wasn't on an 18 4x1. They were still better than us, not that I was supposed to be on it or not, and so they were really good. And, so didn't have much interaction other than what's up and, how you doing, Mouse? And, some of the guys we knew and some of the gals we knew on the team, we would talk to them as well. So end of my freshman year, oh man, I can't believe I can't remember my head coach's name my freshman year in college.
At Florida?
Coach, yeah. Was it?
Not Jimmy Carnes, because that's before.
It wasn't Jimmy. It was right after Coach Walker left. He coached it.
Oh, that's right, Walker. Yeah. I can see his face too. That's the sad part about
it. Yeah. I can see his face. I can see his Mercedes Benz he drove up in every day too. So anyway, he was more
coach. Yep.
And then he was, told to
not Doug Brown.
It was right before Doug.
No, before Doug. Okay, dang it.
Right before Doug.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
So it's going to come to me in a minute.
Yeah.
And I know my fellow Gators, especially one of my favorite alum, Steve Adderley. He recruited him out of Miami, and Steve Webb. I knew I would get it. I had to speak it into existence. Coach
John Webb. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So he was, he moved on, and obviously Ralph went with him, and Doug came in, pulling his pants up. Doug's my guy. He came in from Tennessee, and
Yep.
Jeremy Foley got him out of Tennessee, and that's where he went to school and he ran, and so it was a big
Yeah,
hire.
that's
We were
right.
all
That's right.
excited. We I don't know if many people know this, but he wanted Darrell Anderson,
Mm.
right?
Hmm.
And the group, we were going in individually and as groups and was like, we got somebody here in town that's the best sprint coach that you could probably have. We got somebody here in town that you got to give a serious look to. Check him out. He's worked here before with the women's 4x8 back in the day. He helps with Dennis at times, and I was like, man, look at the sprinters at Buchholz. We went in and we fought for that dude for 2 weeks.
Wow.
All we knew about, and nothing against Coach Anderson, we
Yeah,
just knew
yeah.
he was at Kentucky, and I didn't know him,
Right, right, right.
and they had some really good sprinters, and
Yeah.
selfishly we were thinking if Mouse comes, Bobby Williams, Terry Sams, all these super fast kids in town are probably going to come to Florida too,
Right.
and sure, Darrell was doing great at Kentucky. He was Tim Harden, Passion Richardson, all of
Right.
those
Oh
guys,
yeah.
those 4x4s. And so that was
I I'm having a hard time, and it could be, Tuck, you know me for long enough. I'm 20 years out of the game, the coaching game,
yep,
so things have changed since I was in the SEC and stuff. But I have a hard time believing that today's world, Florida State, doesn't matter what school, big name school, would fight so hard for a high school coach, no matter how good they are. And obviously Mouse had the credentials. There's such a, and maybe it's just my perception because of social media and everything, but that's all I do is talk to coaches. This is
yep,
just gathering from coaches that there's such a wide perception of talent between high school and college coaches. It's not as wide as you guys think, by the way, but
right.
that is a perception. But you guys fought. Now, maybe it's a little bit, I'm gonna call it easier. Maybe that's not the right word, because you have a little bit of proof in the pudding. You're like, dude, he's on my track every day. Like, it'd been different if he'd have been the head coach, maybe I'm calling it Willenboro up in Jersey, and you'd be like, well, I saw him when I was in high school, and yeah, they're fast and all, but this
Right.
Florida is different. It's SEC. Here,
Right.
you had the proof, like, dude, he's right there. Look, we see him every day. This guy's freaking awesome. That just strikes me about how much you fought for a high school coach to be.
And he helped some of the guys in the summers. And like if somebody was
Yeah,
doing blocks and someone, they didn't look right.
right,
He was, and they just kept talking. I was like, Mouse, man, we could get Mouse. And I was like, Mouse, and I was like, well, they are fast. And I really didn't care either way. No one between Mouse or Darrell, in my mind, had any 400 hurdlers that they can call home.
sure.
Right. So
Good point.
that's what I was
Good
thinking,
point.
because my
Good point.
freshman year, I came in indoor 2-4, and then Ralph was like, let's try you in the 400 hurdles. You did that in high school. And I ended up getting fifth in the SEC as a freshman, and I was like, well, I guess I'm a 400 hurdler now. I was training
Yeah.
with Torrance Zellner. He was school record holder at the time. And what I didn't know is he was the volunteer coach for us, and he was coaching me, but he was being coached by Tom Jones.
Oh.
So my freshman year, if we really want to say who coached me in the 400 hurdles, it was Tom
Yeah.
Jones,
Yeah.
because it was proxy through Torrance Zellner,
Right.
and I worked out with them in the summer when the coaching staff were gone. I literally would show up and train with Torrance, and Tom would tell us what to do. So a month before training for junior nationals, or yes, USA juniors, it was me and Torrance, because it was the same weekend back. You know how they did that before.
Right.
He would do
Right.
seniors and I did juniors.
Yeah, it's amazing to me, looking now in 2025, because we know how history played out, that your choices were DA and Mouse. It's like, holy cow! I mean, those are two Hall of Famers right there. So it's just like,
And that's how I felt. I was like, we're
Yeah.
going to be fine. And I was like,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
someone coached me in the hurdles,
yeah,
And so I
right,
didn't
right,
know
right.
any way who was better than the other, so it didn't matter. But I did know that, so on the short sprints and somebody that's right here,
Yeah,
he doesn't have to do anything, and everybody knows he knows the school. He'll love the school. He'll,
yeah, yeah.
So we were going in, and I'm sure Doug listened, and I'm happy he did listen. He might have, who knows? DA
Yeah,
might have said no. He
yeah.
might have just
That's
said
right.
no.
That's right. That's right.
So
So first of all, if you're listening, if you go back, one of the hardest things about this podcast now is we are staring season 6, so year 7 in the face here in a few months in 2026 is, we have 300 plus episodes, right? And of course you're listening today because you're subscribed, a year ago. And so you don't even know about the first 100, 200, 300 amazing men and women. Well, guest, I think it was 30. He's an OG. He was one of my original. I think it's 30, 33, right around there, is Mouse Holloway. So if you want to hear directly from the mouse's mouth, is that how you say it? Not the horse's mouth?
Yeah,
Straight from Mouse himself. Go back, look at the same app or YouTube that you're listening or watching right now. Just type his name in, it'll pop up, and it's amazing. It's an amazing story, and I'm humbled and blessed that before we became very established here in this podcast, Mouse believed in me and was on the show, and so I'm very grateful for that. So I love hearing like different sides to it, right? It's just kind of cool to hear the athlete side of it. Okay, well, spoiler alert, they chose Mouse. You can't go wrong, or we now know you couldn't go wrong with that. But did he start coaching you directly, or
he started coaching? He took over in the fall.
Okay.
And as I joke with him all the time, I was like, you didn't like me. I wasn't one of your premier guys, and I had to earn his trust. I had to earn his belief.
You were fifth in SECs, and you're like, I'm not one of your guys, dude. You're fifth in SECs as a freshman.
Yeah, but I wasn't running as fast as some of the other guys. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And so, I had to earn that. I had to prove to him. And I'm sure there were times when he came out with the high school, he would see us working out, and I'm the loudest guy out there always. And so he there's probably part of him was just like, well, how good are you really? You talk a lot. You know what I mean? Like, and so he knew what buttons to push, to get me going. And in me, like, because I have a middle child syndrome. My oldest sister, she had her friends, did her thing 3 years apart. My younger brother, 5 years apart. So I'm just kind of in the middle doing my own thing, and I never really leaned on anybody. And so if you can motivate me and tell me I can't or I won't, well, here we go. I got to show you. You know what I mean? And so he knew how to push the buttons. And I believe that indoor. We didn't host that one. I think it might have been LSU. No, that was my freshman year. Oh, Kentucky. So indoor first year with Mouse, running the 4x4. We're happened to be in the same heat with Kentucky and LSU. They're top 2 in the SEC, maybe the country. I don't remember, but they're going at it. I'm third leg. Up and down season. Didn't do anything in the open 400. I hand the stick off in whatever position I got it in. Didn't really feel like I ran great. I wasn't tired. After the race was over with, Mouse was just like, so how'd you feel? And I was like, I feel great. And he was like, how'd you think you run? And I was like, I'm sorry, man. I don't think I split anything crazy. Like he was like, so what was you thinking about? And I was like, you want me to tell you the truth or you want me to lie? He was like, just what were you thinking about? And I was like, well, and there was a couple guys with it. I was like, well, I really wanted to watch LSU and Kentucky going at it, so I was trying to stay close so I could watch the race. And he was like, so you turned your brain off finally. I was like, oh, what does that mean? He was like, could you split 46 something? I was like, no way. Like.
Interesting. Yeah.
I didn't feel like I was running at all. And I'm just trying to watch these guys. I'm trying to get close. Like you hear, they're out in high school. They're fighting, and you run outside. You want to see the fight, and I'm run into the fight. And it was crazy.
Were you so I love how he said you finally shut your brain off. You stopped thinking about all the other stuff and you just ran. And how fast that ended up being. When you start thinking about before that, when you'd race, whether it was the hurdles, relays, etc., were you like always a thinker? Like you're always like, all right, I'm in this position. Or I see the guy there. Okay, maybe I'm splitting here.
I was bouncy, right? So that's what he was like, why are you bouncing so much? And so I was always, he's like, stop worrying about getting your knees up and just run. He would always tell me that. So I was always.
So your brain was always like, okay, where am I at now? What am I doing here?
Running mechanics. And you just gotta run, wow. That's what he always say. I'm like, how was it? You just gotta run, Tuck. You just gotta run. I don't understand. You just gotta run. He was always getting frustrated with me. And Mouse, and I don't know if he talked about this before, but we had to do some behavior modifications with Coach Holloway. With him.
Oh,
he came in 38 hot. We had to slow him down. I was I'm like, my mother's a correction officer. My dad's, he was a cop. I'm from a military family. I was like, you can mother F and you can cuss and you can do all that stuff to me, a couple other guys, but some people that don't have their fathers in their life don't really,
Right.
they don't
Right.
really deal with another man cussing at them. If you just like,
Yeah.
they're gonna have to get over it. It was like, no, they're not. And so it was me, Damon Carroll, I think Robert Covington, it was a couple other people. I wonder if Jimmy came in with us, but we would always, I know me and Damon for sure, we would always kind of go in before practice and just kind of talk to him and be like, Mouse, listen, you know, we cool, but you know what I mean? And so it was, and he'll tell you, like, if you ever talk to him, he's like, yeah, tucking them in the behavior modification, they saved my
Yeah,
job.
I think that's a great example of a coach who has understanding that he doesn't have it all understood today, and so
Yeah.
can listen to his athletes, whether it's hey, here's how you're being perceived out there. I know you think this is the right way, but let me tell you, some of these guys and gals, it ain't happening. And there's a coach has a choice in that kind of
Yeah.
conversation, right?
Yeah.
Shut up, 18-year-old, whatever.
Yeah.
Or like, you know what, maybe I should listen to them and maybe pay attention to myself, and maybe I'll learn something. And we know Mouse well enough. That's the kind of guy he is. He's going to
Oh
learn.
yeah, for sure, for sure. If you yell at somebody, you say something about somebody and say something to them, and you see how they react to it, then you
Yeah.
know you
Yeah.
got to be aware of how they react to what you tell them,
Yeah.
because it might sound great coming out.
Right. Yeah. Love that. All right. There's no bigger fan, but maybe you than Mouse. So love these stories, but this is the Aaron Tucker show.
Yeah,
Mouse has had
yeah,
his
yeah,
episode,
yeah,
Todd.
yeah,
Let's
for sure.
move on. Love you, Mouse, because I know you're listening.
Yeah, my
Just
guy.
take a quick step back. What did you, when you went to Florida as a 17, 18-year-old kid, what were you thinking of? Like, what did you decide to first major in? And what were you thinking, like, oh, I'm going to become and you already mentioned, cop and correctional officers, or maybe it's criminal justice or something. What were you thinking about as an 18-year-old that you were going to become when you grew up?
I was going to go to law school.
Yeah.
I was
Oh,
going to
yeah.
be a lawyer.
Hmm.
And after my first semester in college, and this is for all of my athletes that want to listen to this, I passed 9 out of 15 hours with a 1.8.
No.
And yeah, I was hanging on by the edge of the cliff. And
Tough. That surprises me about
that
you.
is, yeah, because Super Nintendo was probably, Madden 93 and Street Fighter. I probably got A's in both of those classes.
Yeah.
You know, apparently I came in with so Florida had this SAT line. If you were above it, no study hall. You below it, study hall. I worked my way out of it. I didn't have study hall. All the other freshmen had study hall, and I'm smarter than y'all. I don't
Oh,
have to go to study hall.
no.
I was in 10 hours of study hall that next spring.
Wow. Did that
Yeah.
serve as a wake-up call to you, or it was like, I just need to work just a little bit more. I got to make sure I stay eligible. Or was that kind of like a holy crap, man, I got kind of an opportunity here. I
Oh
might
yeah.
need to buckle down.
Yeah, I was on the way out. The next I had to take a class over, I had to take an incomplete. So I had 17 credits on the books, and I had an incomplete was 3 hours. So I had 20
Wow.
credits in the spring of my first track season. I'm revolting. No, heck no. Dr. Carradine, he was over academics, and he brought me in maybe second week of school and was like, yeah, so let's talk about what's going on. I was like, yeah, they got me taking 20 credits. And he was like, so you only passed 9 in the fall. So what are we talking about? I was like, man, that's crazy, and I got 17 and then I got to take the incomplete. And it was like, well, you could just take the F in it. You don't have to take the incomplete. Just take the F. That's par for the course. That's what you already been doing. And I was like, hold up,
Dang.
man. This dude is just like, he was like, he's like, I look at it like this, Tuck. You're probably going to go back to New York at the end of the semester anyway.
Okay.
So
I was going to ask that. Was there any fear of like, they going to
yeah,
ship me back home?
he
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
like, you'll be back. So don't worry about it. Just, you
Wow.
know what? You could do it or not. I really don't care. I'm telling you what you should do. And I think you should, just, shut it, go do your stuff, go study, go to study hall, and you'll be fine. And then he was like, anything else? And I was like, no, I think I'm good. I was crying on the inside when he
Yeah.
said, I don't care what you do. Like literally, like I don't care what you do. It's not going to affect me. I'm still going to go to sleep. Like it's not going to affect me. And I was
Yeah.
just like, what's the point of me coming here and talking to him? This black man is supposed to be on my side, and he just told me he don't care what I do. And when I talked to him about that conversation later on, he was like, "It worked, didn't it?"
He knew
I
what
was
button
like,
to push. Yeah.
I was like, what? He was like, yeah, me and Mouse talk. We knew what
Huh.
I had no worries that you were going to do what you needed to do.
Wow, man.
And then I took classes in the summer school. I think
Yeah.
that semester I got like a 2.8. I failed that class that I incomplete again. It was economics.
Oh, okay,
Failed it
okay, okay,
again,
okay.
but I
All right.
failed it. I failed better this time. And then I took 2 classes in summer school, got A's, and I was off and running, plasma fraternity in the fall, and
Right.
that GPA was the. And then the
Yeah.
next spring, that GPA, I think I had a 2.0. So that was my second lowest ever the
Wow.
spring semester because I redshirted track. I'm in this new fraternity. I'm just, I'm going doing my work, but I'm not going to class like I should.
Mm.
And my fraternity missed getting the highest GPA amongst fraternities by like point oh something or maybe point 0.1. And I'm like, I have a 2.0.
Huh.
I'm like, I hope the bros don't know that was the reason that
Yeah, that was you. Yeah.
and after that I never had less than 3.5,
Wow. Oh, wow.
including grad school. It was like, you know what,
Yeah.
this is ridiculous. I'm too competitive to, and I used to compete with my cousins and uncles. I have uncles my age that in grades all through high school. How many A's you got? How many B's you got? And I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
this is not me. I'm tripping.
Right, right, right.
This is
Yeah.
not me.
Yeah.
So
That's interesting. I would have wished you had better grades all the way through, but that adversity not only, helped you grow up, but I have to imagine now as a coach, there's a little bit of when you're sitting there talking to one of your own athletes that are struggling, it's like, look, man, I've been there. Like literally have been there.
hey,
Here's what you got to do, man. You got to get this, here's where I could have gone, but thank goodness I got on the right track. So it just gives you there's some
I try to be
authenticity there.
proactive. I
Yeah.
try to be proactive with all of them and give them these little nuggets early.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And over my 26 years and going into year 26 now, so the last 25 years, I've tried to give them nuggets, and I can promise you there's a few, and I'm just not saying like 1 or 2 every year. There's a few every year that are just like, man, I should have listened to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, you know what, listen. I'm not really a great coach. I'm not really a great father. I'm not really a great friend. I can offer decent advice. I feel like I offer good advice. I feel like I listen very well.
Hmm.
I don't have to be great in these things, but I feel like I'm good enough that I've been there and I've seen things that if you guys listen, you'll be fine. And one of the things that my high school coach and even Mouse used to say, I think I'm a better coach when you listen,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
and if you listen and it doesn't work out, that's on me.
Right.
And
Right.
I can go back and I can fix what's going on, training or race plan, whatever
Yeah.
the case may be, classroom, whatever it is. I'm an amateur academic advisor. I'm an amateur psychologist. I'm an amateur of every hat
Right.
that touches our team. I can give you a little bit and then send you to the pro.
Right. I love that. Well,
I'm a professional at the track, but you know,
well,
I'm still giving you advice.
I love the authenticity it gives you. Again, if I were able to write the history, I'd write it different. I was like, oh, what's that 4.0 all the way through and all those kinds of things. But through adversity comes progress. And I think,
Right.
like I said, just the authenticity of it when you're talking to one of your athletes. It's, if you're a 4.0 all the way through, and it's like, hey, man, you got to get your grades on. I know you got to do this. You got to do study hall. And they're like, whatever, Doug, you were a smart guy. You 4.0'd everything. It's like, yeah,
Right.
that's actually not me. So I love that.
Right.
All right. What did you end up getting your degree in? And at any point during undergrad was coaching, did it ever switch like, oh, I want to be a coach?
Yeah. So I moved after that first year to history.
Oh,
Um,
I can see that with you. Yeah.
yeah. It doesn't make sense to continue to argue about history and not know it.
Hmm.
I've always been intrigued. I was literally, I'm an athlete, I'm a jock, right? First, but I'm also a nerd. I had good grades in high school, and I begged my mother, when you have the book sales, I begged my mom that we needed encyclopedias
Wow.
for me to do research. I didn't have any research to do. I just wanted them so I can just do my own research.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then, they would give you updated versions, and she would always, say stuff like, well, so you're going to, so what we going to do with these books when we update them? And I'm just like, I think they give us like little manuals or little pamphlets or something, so she was against it, but I think in the back of her mind, I was like, this kid wants academic books, and I'm trying not to give it to him. Let
Yeah,
me
yeah, 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 yeah. Hey,
just
but
hush.
I like how smart she was of like the updates though. She's like, as soon as you get them, they're out of date. So what do we do there? I like she was already thinking. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
For sure. For sure. He was saving money, right? But we still did it. And so I've always had that research kind of mind, right?
Love it.
So I thought to myself, all right, so I'm majoring in political science, want to go to law school, and I was like, that's not going to work.
All right.
I barely got a good grade in English class, like, man. And so I'm thinking like, okay, so I took some AP classes and I did get AP credit in history, and I was like, well, I'm already there. I might
Did
even
you
just continue.
really?
I did. Yeah, AP English, I got a 2, and then history, I got a 3, and then chemistry and physics, I got 1s.
That's
We're not gonna talk about those. So.
that's a really good example. I mean, you took AP classes, no matter what you ended up getting on your test. That says about your education level. At least I don't know if it necessarily says anything about your intelligence, but it says about your education level. So for you to then go to, it just tells you a lot. Like, hey, no matter what a kid has coming out of high school, there's no guarantees in college. I mean, because you
No,
really dipped getting into
I had
college.
a 3.75 coming out of high school, man. I was
Yeah,
I was
wow.
one of the smart ones.
Yeah, that's just interesting.
So from high school to college, I was the only athlete in most of my classes.
Mm-hmm.
That you understand what I'm saying, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A handful of college classes, math. I struggled with pre-calc, struggled with college algebra, and so then I took like a math 120 or something,
Mm-hmm.
fundamental concepts,
Yep, same.
and that was the first class I took in college that had a lot of athletes in there.
You're like,
Had a
oh,
lot.
okay.
And so I guess the statute of limitation is over with. I don't see any police around me, but I was the in-class tutor during the exams, if you know what I mean.
Yep, yep, gotcha. Yep, yep.
Change one, just change one, make it wrong.
Yeah,
You
change
know.
one. That's right.
So
That's right. So did you end up
um,
getting a history degree?
got a history degree, minor in education. I redshirted, like I said, I redshirted I redshirted outdoor of my sophomore year, and then I redshirted indoor of my I think the fall. No, I didn't redshirt indoor at all. I ran all through indoor, but then my last year I didn't have an indoor and I had an outdoor.
Mhm.
So for that 5th year, I was done with my school. I was graduated, done. So I'm 5th year. What am I going to do? So I took post back in education, and I had a minor in education, took a lot of education classes. Um, just not prerequisites. What's the electives? Took a lot of electives for education because I just loved it. I loved it, and
Hmm.
at some point, I was named team captain.
Hmm.
I think at the end of my junior year. So that was the first time we went to nationals. So that would have been junior year indoor, maybe senior year outdoor. Am I thinking this correctly? So sophomore, nothing. And then, so no, it was junior year indoor, sophomore year outdoor.
Mhm.
And so at our awards banquet, Coach Brown is giving out the captain's awards. And one of the recipients, he's talking, he's like, this person didn't even realize that we one of my team captains.
Mhm.
All year long, things that we asked him to do, he got it done right away. Had the team lined up what they needed to do. A captain is an extension of the staff, and he was that extension.
Hmm.
He would hold the guys accountable, grab them if he needed to, and we just thought that this person, is worthy of this award, even though we never named him captain, and he's going to be a great coach one day.
Hmm.
I was like looking around like,
You had no
okay,
clue. You had no clue.
because I'm going to be an Olympic gold medalist.
Right.
I'm make this thing go. And so then it was like, Aaron Tucker, come on up here. And I was just like, this dude tried me. He said I'm gonna be a great coach one day.
Oh,
Wow.
you took it as like almost like a slam. Like,
I was
he's not good
insulted.
enough
I went up,
athletically, so you better go teach.
man. And so, we talked afterwards. I was like, man, coach, I'm gonna be a coach. He's like, yeah, no, after you're done running, after and so I just started to really kind of think about it and figure out what made sense. And I was already in that path of education.
Hmm.
When I was in graduate school, I told people all the time that graduate school helped me become a better coach, because when you're a teacher, you are literally a coach of that classroom.
Right.
All coaches are teachers in that field.
That's right.
And so it just goes hand in hand. And just, different methods of coaching and reaching out
Yep.
to people and
Yep.
and how people learn, understanding how people learn and going extra because everybody is not the same. Everybody is not going to
That's
learn,
right. That's right.
just so that's been helpful. That was really helpful. And yeah.
I love how you said that, all teachers are coaches of their classroom, because I say it the other way, and you said it's hand in hand. So you would agree with this. If you're a coach, you're a teacher as well. That's
Absolutely.
what you're doing out on the track or the field. I
Absolutely.
absolutely love it. So, did you, when you went to grad school, were you still competing, or did you become a graduate assistant coach?
That was my first year coaching. I was a volunteer, 2000.
But you kept running, yeah?
So, that fall of 99, obviously I finished up before
All
the
right.
fall of 99. I was student teaching. I had night class and I was training. Something had to give.
Yeah, so that sounds like a lot. Yeah.
And I'm talking about me. I'm 100 miles an hour in everything I do.
Right.
Something's got to give. Obviously, my fraternity understood what I had to do, and so I wasn't, looked at to do a lot. My brother
And by the
stepped
way,
up and
I meant to ask you 10 minutes ago when you noticed that, because I know you're very proud of your fraternity.
yeah.
Please name your fraternities for people that are listening, because I know you're very, very proud.
Oh yeah, Omega Psi Phi Fraternity
There you go.
Incorporated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
So we were, they understood what I was doing and it was fine. So didn't have to worry about that. And that's lifelong. So it's not like I need to,
Right.
and so I sat down with Mouse one day and I was like, it was right before a Thursday workout, specific endurance workout. I think I was going over 5 hurdles, 30-second rest, going over 5 hurdles again, full speed, spikes. Let's go get it. And so right before I went out, finished student teaching, and I was like, man, I need to talk to you about one of your athletes. And he was like, who? And I was like, I need you to entertain me and kind of bear with me, but I want to talk about one of your athletes, Erin Tucker. And he was just like,
He's like,
okay.
Tuck has lost his mind. All right, let's just go
He
with
was
it.
like, okay, let's see where this is going. I was like, so how fast do you think he's going to run this year? He was like, ooh, good question. I know more about. I was like, nope, can't wait for the workout. You got to tell me what you see now based on where he is. You've had him for 5 years. What are you thinking? He was like, I was like, you think he could break 49? He was like, 48 high, 49 low, because I was 49.8 the year prior. 2 years prior, and I think I was 50.3, which didn't make it to nationals. 50.3, and because it was descending order list. So he was like, he's definitely training better than the 49.8 guy. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, and what do you think it's going to take to make a U.S. team and, get paid? He was like, ooh.
Yeah, it's a different jump. Yeah.
He was like, so we're talking about maybe 47 highs, 48 lows, 48, 40 or better. And I was like, do you think Erin Tucker could do that? He was like, I want to say yes, because I know how he is. And I was like, but forget about how he is and how much you love him as a person. Do you think he has the physical chops to do that? And he was like, no. Probably not. And I was like, all right. So now, knowing that there's so many guys that are taking drugs in our sport and he's losing money, revenue spots to these guys, how do you think he's going to react if he continues running, misses these teams, and these guys are doing drugs? He's like, ooh.
Oh, yeah.
He's probably going to hit some people.
Yeah, firestorm. Yeah.
He was like, I was thinking the same thing. And I was like, so, all right, so this is what's going to happen. Today's workout, this is going to be my last track workout. I'm going to do this better than I've ever done before. I'm going to go give my spikes to the equipment room, and you can follow if you want, but I'm going to tell them never give them back to me. And I'm going to kill this workout, and I'm done. And I'm 1,000% at practice, working with you, going to class afterwards, going to student teach in the mornings. I'm a lock in, and the coaching has got to take over. He was like, you sure you want to do that? And I was like, yep. And I was like, look, no matter what I do after this workout, whether it was good or it was bad, do not let me run anymore. And he was like, you sure? I said, Mouse, promise. He was like, all right. And so this split 400 I ran like, maybe he remembers. I feel like it was either 48-13 or 48-31, one of the two. And that was, I don't think I ever broke 49 in a split run before, and he was just like, wow. And I was like, what? He was like, now, if I tell you what you just told me, and I was like, I was really happy, excited, because I felt like I went out on my own terms. I went out how I wanted to go out. I was still healthy.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be like a lot of guys who have an injury or they
Yeah.
disgruntled. Or I love track.
Yeah.
I love track, and I wanted to go out on my own terms, and I never regret it.
That's a great point. It's amazing. Some of the coaches we've had on here have been, Olympians and gold medalists and stuff. And it's always, that's an interesting aspect to me is when these may be two different questions, when you know to hang it up and when you actually do hang it up,
Yeah.
and then how you do it. I talk a lot about, with whether it's coaching or any, private sector like here, retiring is tough. There's no college class in retiring.
Nope.
You don't know how to do it. And when you do it, this is what stopping being an athlete is. It's kind of like you retire and on Friday you do a workout, and then on Monday you wake up and you don't have to do a workout. So what do you do? It's kind of like, one of my mentors here who retired in 2018, he was a 1976, 1980 decathlon Olympic with Jenner. And
Okay.
Fred Dixon, love him to death. And as we, I worked hand in hand with him, and as we were getting closer to his retirement, and I was like, "So Fred, you're gonna call and talk to a customer on Friday, and then on Monday, you're just not. They're gonna call me." It's like, "What do you do?" Like I'm genuinely concerned. What do you do? And he was saying things like, "Yeah, what do you do?" And as we got closer, he had grandkids, and so that became the filler of the void. It's like, "Oh, you know what? I'm gonna go be a grandpa," because I wasn't able to do a lot of good things as a dad because of work and athletics and stuff. So luckily there was something there. But I worry about with athletes that don't. And most athletes that I've talked to don't have plans of what to do after, because it feels like you're Superman. Like, I'm always going to be this fast or jump this far. I'm always going to be able to make a team. I'm always going to be able to scratch a living. If I can't, make good money, I can at least scratch a living. And this is better than a corporate job. And it's like, yeah, but eventually this stops, whether it's 25, 30, 35, God bless you, make it to 40. That's crazy. No one does. You still got a lot of life to live. You got to have a job. So that's I do like the story about going out on your own terms. What struck me the way you did it, Tuck. Some athletes, and I can't think of any one example, but Kobe Bryant, they have to have a different personality on the court versus off the court, whether it's a track or things like that. So, on the court, he was Black Mamba, right? That was his, there was no Kobe Bryant. He was Black Mamba. It struck me how you did that. You had to do something very similar to have that conversation with Mouse. You had to go, "Hey, I want to talk about your athlete, Aaron Tuck." Like, you had to become someone different, like an outside third party almost. Like, Tucker's feelings don't matter right here. He's not here. Let's just have a talk between me and you, Mouse. That just struck me the way you psychologically had to have that conversation. If Aaron Tucker would have had that conversation, emotions would have been in it. As soon as you hear 48-13 or 48-31, it's like, well, maybe I'm jumping the gun a little bit here, boys. So that just struck me, that kind of that same mentality you had to do in that conversation, not as a workout or anything, but as that conversation, you had to create a third persona per se. That was just interesting.
And I was thinking about it for like 2 weeks.
Yeah. How you were going to even address it, and yeah.
I just know I was nervous, and I was exhausted. That's really what it was. That's what it boiled down to. And I didn't want to feel like I was quitting. Right. And so I was like, I'm going to retire after this workout, and I'm going to move on.
The kryptonite of all athletes, the word quit. Because we think of it in only its negative connotations of like, oh, you quit on the play, or you quit on the team, or you quit on yourself. And in reality, we all have to quit everything at some point. We all die, boys and girls. That's a quit, whether you choose it or not. Right. But eventually you have to, we had Dwayne Ross on the podcast a long time ago as well. Another great, he's now the head coach at University of Tennessee. And he talked about, after his last race, he knew it was going to be his last race. He took his shoes off, put it at the finish line. This was his quitting. He quit. He had to quit.
Yeah.
That was his, or maybe he was the one that threw his shoes away. Actually, I think Dwayne actually is the one who physically went to the garbage and threw his shoes away. He was like, I'm done.
That's it.
So we only talk about the negative. In reality, to have any growth, you have to have cut, which is a quit. You have to, and so eventually, there was now or 10 years, you had to do it. And again, on your own terms, I think is a really important aspect of that.
Yeah, you gotta close the door for another one to open.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times the identity of being an athlete in
100%.
all sports, that's the hardest door to close. How do I know this? Obviously, if I could take a step back and not be a coach and athlete, why do I know this? CrossFit competitions, marathons.
Right. Yeah. That's right.
People just cannot let it go, right? Golf, for
Yeah.
those that were not golfers, they're
Yeah.
out there because they have to compete at something.
I'll give you a very close second from experience, being on this side of life now with track coaches, and it's all coaches. Being a coach is very, very close to number two to that, to being an athlete,
Yeah.
the identity side. Not that I necessarily think there's coaches out there like, man, you should have retired.
Yeah.
A great example might be, because it's in the public, I can talk about this, Bill Belichick. It's like, dude, why don't you just retire? You had a great life. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Going back to college, he's gonna taint his legacy. They're
Yeah.
not good, and they're not going to be very good this year.
Yeah.
Watch, they're going to go 11-1 after this weekend, where they just got trounced.
They needed you to say it.
Well, yeah, well, I'm sure a lot of people are saying it, because all the memes right now are just amazing, by the way, on social media. Especially, somebody should give TCU Twitter guy a raise. Oh, have you seen the memes?
Yes.
Oh my God, hilarious.
Yes.
UNC says, can't wait for our show on Hulu, behind the scenes, and TCU says, hey, when's episode 1? Dude,
Crazy.
It's so funny, so funny. Anyway,
Crazy.
but to your very point, you made a great point there. I want to make sure everybody hears that, is the identity side of it. In reality, because I deal with coaches all the time. I get to so blessed to work with them, and some of us think that coaching is their number one identity. And I'm like, dude, first of all, there's no bigger fan of a track coach than this guy. And I think maybe at best it's your fourth most important identity, because you're probably a spouse, you're a son or a daughter, you're a brother or a sister, you're a father or a mother. I mean, there's just so many other titles. Those are way more important than coaching. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's hard. I get it. Okay.
And I have a stopgap. I have a date in mind for my retirement.
Yeah, is that right? You're a thinker, man. That's why the GPA surprised me. I'm like, I know you as a thinker.
Right.
You're proving it by that alone, but you 188 for the first one, for crying out loud.
Right.
Yeah. Wow.
If I can make it there, and when I say if, is all about, where we're going in athletics and ADs. And if I'm still conscious and aware, and I tell people all the time, I'm gonna live to 120, so I'm gonna definitely make it there. That's my goal, right? I gotta get it. So I was an assistant coach for 23 years. I want to be a head coach for 23 years, and after that, I have a retirement plan with the wife, what we're going to do in retirement. So I've actually had to change it, because it was house before I got married. It was house in Seattle area, house in the Keys. We get an RV, and in the summers we're coming up. Going to track meets and spend summers there, and then we come back down for the winter, college football in the middle.
And
so I told her, I was like, so recently I was like, maybe I could do that until I'm about 75, and then we can move to. She's been talking about living in Costa Rica forever, and I was like, well, then we can probably do your Costa Rica. And I was like, but as soon as I get tired of driving, it might be 2 years in, and I'm like, all right, babe, let's sell the houses, sell the RV, and let's get something nice, So
have you been to Costa Rica?
I have.
Yeah, so my sister-in-law is from Costa Rica, and so we've gone down a couple of times. She's got family down there. That's a place we've talked about retiring to, actually.
We might be neighbors, man.
Yeah, dude, I'd love it. That'd be so fun. That'd be funny, actually. That'd be hilarious.
It would be, right?
I would love that.
I'm trying to get as many people as I can to put down in.
We'll get our. There's probably something bad when I do this analogy. We'll get some kind of not combine, or we'll just get a couple of houses in a row, a bunch of retired coaches and stuff. Yeah,
right.
That'd be great. That'd be fun. Anyway, okay. So let's keep rolling through here. You decide I'm gonna go out on my terms as an athlete. I love that. That helps with keeping at bay, not stopping it completely, I imagine, but helps keep at bay a little bit of the whole regret syndrome, because you went on your terms. You get into coaching. So talk to us about how you started getting into coaching. You the very next day started helping Mouse out.
Yeah, volunteer coaching with Mouse, and we had some knuckleheads that I can get through to. So that was helpful in that 2000 season. We actually got second at nationals that year, so that was good for me as someone looking for a job. And I actually had my interview. And I guess the statute of limitations is over. I interviewed for my job at the Indoor National Championship before the job even posted. It was, Gary Winnicky asked Doug Brown if he knew of any young coaches, because he was retiring in 3 years and didn't want to bring someone to move a whole family. He would prefer someone that didn't have a family, so it could be a lighter pill for them to swallow once he retired. And so I made a great impression. We talked I think we set aside an hour and a half, and we talked about coaching athletics for about 45 minutes, and we watched the Big Ten tournament in this hotel room. He had a suite, and we watched the Big Ten tournament for the rest of the time we had together, and it was awesome. And I was like, I feel like I got the job, but I don't know. It's like he stopped asking me questions, and it was like one or two things happened. You gave him all the answers, or he just knew you were an idiot.
Yes, yeah. It was on the extremes. You either had it, or
There was nothing in between.
You were definitely not it. Yeah. So you talk about Gary Winnicke, who I never actually got to meet, and that saddens me. So you went from Gainesville to right here where I am. You came to Champaign, Illinois.
Drove a U-Haul with my dog Bolo in the
Yeah.
front seat, man, and we got there, and stayed at a hotel for a few days.
Yeah.
Got my little place. It was good. The crazy thing about my first year at Illinois was my best sprinter going in the door was a guy I raced in the 400 hurdles 2 years prior when Illinois came down. He beat me in the race, but he hooked hurdle 8 and 9, and I was yelling and fussing at the finish line. And I was like, Erin, get over here. Get over. What is wrong with you? I was like, he hooked the hurdle. He's like, you tell me, I'll handle it. You need to stop making a scene. And I was just like, whatever.
Who was that?
Sherman Armstrong.
I wondered. Yeah, Sherman. Yeah. I saw him. I coached high school in Chicago in 98, 99, 2000. And I remember Sherman. Yeah. From a little town, like Argenta or something like that. A real small school, if I remember.
Right by Chicago, yeah. I coached, among others. We had Coach Willie Williams left a great group.
Yeah, Willie. Wow.
And it was awesome. I could always call and lean on him when I felt like I couldn't get through to somebody. And Winnicke gave me the reins to do what I needed to do. Every now and again, he'll pull me in and ask me a question. What I realize now, and I try to tell my assistant coaches, and even when I was an assistant coach, I would tell my colleagues, when your boss says to you, you ever thought about it this way? Or if I was you, I would. That means do it. Just do it. Don't even, your opinion doesn't matter. Right. If they one time they ask you, they might want to know, and it might be kind of a conversation. The second time they ask you, you probably are still in that mode of effing up. The third time they ask you, you're probably going to get fired.
So you're in trouble. Yeah. Right. It's already past that.
The fourth time comes, like, just do it.
So this was in the era when Illinois was a split program. So you're on the men's side.
Yep.
You come from a sprints and hurdles background. Were you coaching anything else besides sprints and hurdles?
Nope. Coach Doyle had the jumpers and the throwers.
Okay, so you didn't have to learn any new events necessarily. Nope. Typically, when we first get into coaching, we coach how we were coached because that's all we know, right? Now, you had a kind of a, Mouse was still, or he has evolved since evolved as well, but had obviously a lot of good concepts even back then. You guys were very successful, obviously. So did you have, I'm trying to kind of how I would ask this, like, did you have a lot of confidence coming into coaching? Because you're like, oh man, I was coached by Mouse. Like
I had a lot of confidence. You
guys should really listen to me.
I had all the workouts. There were things that I did in high school, and I'm a young guy. I'm 23 years old, so more is better in my mind. Now, as an older guy, more is not better. But I was more is better. Sherman didn't have the year he was going to have, but I did have a guy named Bubba Ten really break the Big Ten record in the 60. The 60 hadn't been run that much up until that point, so I think we were in year 3 or 4. He broke the Big Ten record, won a conference championship. You couldn't tell me anything.
Yeah.
The following year, I had a young man run 2080 indoor and break that school record. You couldn't tell me. I got people at nationals my first 2 years coaching, and then my third year, my first true recruiting class. They're juniors, and I had some good hurdlers. I spent a lot of time year 2 signing hurdlers, which once I left, they all Andre English, Adrian Walker, Abe Jones, they all just became amazing college athletes. And I got, not that I wanted any credit, I was like, man, where was that, man? Your freshman year, just trying to learn, And so they, we also signed Tremel Smith, 800-meter runner beforehand. I think we got Zach Glavish late.
That's right.
So
Zach, that's right.
Yeah, we had a good group. I had Jason Van Swall.
Yeah, I remember
my
him.
Fall. Coach Winnicke had me, Jason Van Swall, John, what was John's last name? Start with a K. He ended up the following fall when we hosted Cross, he got second to this crazy freshman sensation from Michigan, won Big Ten, and he got second.
Allen Webb,
but he was John Cronforce. So he sprained his ankle. We had another guy that Coach Winnicke was like, train these guys. I don't want to deal with them. They can't finish workouts. They not running cross. And I was just like, this man just gave me a 148 half miler and told me to coach him in the fall.
Yeah.
I got a 49 low guy. I was like, boy,
Look
you
out.
you may be in coaching long, or you might be done after this year. So I had some talent, and
Yeah.
I ruined all of them. No, I'm joking.
Stop.
Uh,
Yeah, I do that.
but I just remember one day coaching Jason, we were doing a circuit, and he told me earlier that he wasn't feeling well. And I'm like, you might not feel well at conference. Get through it.
Nice.
That's just
That's so coach speak. Yeah.
if you're not feeling well, go home, come back
Yeah.
tomorrow, we can
Yeah.
figure it out. And what I do now is when they're not feeling well, you go home.
Hmm.
Coach, can I do the workout tomorrow? No, you missed today. Don't worry about it. And so
Mhm.
I kind of play it off like, no, don't worry about it. Everybody killed it yesterday. Oh my God, you missed it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to force you to do something you don't want to do, right?
Nope.
You can tell me afterwards, Coach, I just wasn't feeling well, but I got through it. I'm like, man, that's what you need. That's pretty good. Appreciate it. And you ran better than you
Mhm.
thought. So anyway, Jason was on the back, and they said when he ran the 8, if he didn't get to the front, he would give up.
Hmm.
So I had that in the back of my mind. So he's in the back, and he just starts like he's literally doing this, and I was like, so I run across the field, and then as I get there, he just turns over and he just starts throwing up, and I was like, you better not stop. And again, we're talking about statute of limitations. I can talk about this now. I was like, if you stop, I will. You
Yeah.
up. And he looked at me, and he wiped his mouth, and he started running. He caught up to the half the pack at 200, 150 to go. He was in the middle, and then the last 100 meters, he passed everyone and crossed the finish line, turn around. We had some drills to do.
Uh,
Fast forward to nationals. We're in Eugene in a hotel eating breakfast. Nice old white lady comes sit next to me and said, can I sit next to you? Coach Tucker. I was like, yeah. She was like, hey, I was like, hey, how are you? She was like, whatever, I can't remember her first name, Vance. Well, I'm Jason's grandmother. And I was like,
I knew it.
oh, hey, how are you? And she was like, yeah, he really, really loved working with you in the fall. And he was really sad after cross ended and he had to go back. He loves coach. But he just
Huh.
felt like you could always motivate him. And what he really loved, and Jason was about 6'4". He's like, what he
Yeah.
really loved was every race he ran this year, you'll go up to him, put your hands on his shoulder, and you would look him in the eyes and say, not today, boss.
Huh. Huh.
And that was, we're not quitting.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would do that for every race because I had a relationship with him and working with him in the fall.
Right.
And he told me that time in the fall, and you yelled at him, and I was like, I'm so sorry. She was like, no,
Yeah, you're like, oh, you weren't supposed to know that story.
she was like, that's what he needed. He said, and she told me, she said that day is when he knew that you were going to be an amazing coach for him, and he would respect you, and he was still to this day afraid of you, and but he appreciates you.
Wow.
And I was like, I don't think I would have actually put my hands on him. She was like, but it doesn't matter. He thought you would.
Right.
Do that nowadays, I'm
Yeah,
definitely not working.
different story, different ending, right?
I'm definitely not working. So
How many seasons at U of I, University of Illinois?
I was there 3 years.
Okay. So 3 years, you are, I mean, somebody who is intelligent, that wants to get into coaching coming out of a guy like Mouse's camp is, it feels like, you're already, one leg into a 4x1. Like you got kind of a head start. If you're smart and you understand, like, okay, I see what Mouse is doing. I can make it my own style and move on. And right out the gate, you got some great kids. They're setting records. First of all, how much did you have to adjust? You guys in Gainesville practice outside the majority of time. You did have the O'Connell Center, is that what it's called?
We only did that the day before the meets.
Yeah. So, but here in U of I, you had a 200-meter flat, and you had to use it certain parts of the year. Did you have to adjust much? And if you did you call anybody? Did you call Matt? I don't know why you maybe.
I did call him for some of it. I was deathly afraid of training on Mondo. All the stories you hear about Mondo, and so
interesting.
I did have a guy that had bilateral femur stress fractures. He was a hurdler. So like, Tuck, what are you doing? I was doing too much, number one. And then I found out after the fact that he was a bartender and he was on his feet from 7 to 11 every night. And so that's when I became connected with my athletes about what are you doing when you leave the track. I got you for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. What you do away from me is going to help you or is going to break you.
Yep.
But I did have to back off with what we were doing because of the pounding. It was too much pounding. I did as much as I could on the grass. So after year one, learned a lesson. Year two, we pretty much stayed on the grass as much as we could. Went out to a couple different trails to do some runs. We had some hills out the Arboretum before it became the Arboretum. It was just grass area. And, I can't, I think it's my third year, whoever we brought in, the women's head coach, she left Illinois. It wasn't Bernie. It was after Bernie.
Karen.
Karen, before she went to Florida State, she got them to build the cross country courts out there. But so I tried to just unload them as much as I could. And from that point, it was like more is not always better. I got to do things different, And then one of the things, I think it was my second or my third year in Illinois, Mouse calls me and says, "I just want to apologize to you guys." And I'm just calling everybody. I was like, "About what?" He was like, "Man, he was like, you guys were different animals." And I was like, "Man, I trained you guys like Clydesdale. I beat you out of hell." And, now I'm seeing that doesn't work for everybody. And I just want to apologize. And I'm looking at these workouts like, what? No. Okay. It might've been my second year. I was like, okay, I gotta adjust. And we literally drifted apart. Drifted apart in terms of our training styles and things we were doing. He would tell me things. I don't know. Test it out. Tell me how it works. I would tell him things. He'd be like, "Oh, I don't know about that, Tuck." And so we were going. And then when I got to Kentucky, we kind of came back together a little bit in terms of some training, but then kind of branched out again. When I got back to Florida, I was like, "Whoa, what are we doing?" And he was like, "Yeah, this is totally different now," And
okay, so 3 years at Illinois, Kentucky after that?
8 years at Kentucky.
Why leave Illinois and why go to Kentucky?
Coach Winnick retired.
And
Coach
right, 3 years. He said 3 years. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Coach Webb was looking for a sprint coach. We had Pastor Richardson coaching the women, and we didn't really have men. So it was 4 coaches on staff there. So he brought me on to be the 5th, and I took over the men. 5 walk-ons first day of practice.
Wow,
5 walk-ons. And so to do what we did the next 7 years, I will always hold my hat on. Kentucky made me who I am.
Yeah.
Coach Weber gave me the ability to, and there were some conversations. If I was you, I would. And so when you hear that from the second head coach, I'm just like, I might want to listen to him. "Hey, so coach, what do you think about this?" "I thought about what you said last week, and does this look? Oh yeah, I like the way that looks. It looks a lot better. I was worried about those kids, And so he gave me the freedom to do, my Venezuelan guys, my first recruiting class. I signed 3 of the top sprinters from Illinois. First call, I asked all of them, "Who else is recruiting you?" They all said Illinois, and this is not a knock on Wayne. They all said Illinois, and I was like, "Look at the questionnaire and look at the letter and see whose name is on it." And they all was like, "Oh my God, it's you." And so brought those guys in and had some Venezuelans. I had some guys from New York and some Texas kids. And I had a good time. And I think that put me in a position where I felt like I arrived. Right.
How did you? So something that I struggled with, I went from Ball State to Mississippi State. And my whole coaching career, because I'm from the South, was to get to the SEC. That was, I still remember Steve Dudley during kind of my recruiting year when he was recruiting me, and I didn't know he was recruiting me to come on staff. And he goes, "What do you want to do in this profession?" And I was like, "Man, I want to be you. I want to be sprints, jumps, and hurdles in the SEC. You want to be the best? You got to beat the best, and there is nobody better than the SEC, right?" And then I got to Mississippi State, and I thought, coming from, JUCO in Kansas, Troy in Alabama, Ball State, you always had to, you have this a little bit, I don't think you'll take offense to this. This is reality. You call some people and you got to explain Eastern Washington, where it is, all that kind of stuff. That's what I had to do at Ball State. Okay. And I was like, okay, finally got the job at Mississippi State. Everybody I call, they're going to know who I am because of Saturday, because of the football. That was true. That actually did hold true. I did have to, a lot of parents get over a movie I still haven't seen, Mississippi Burning. Yeah. So a lot of parents were like, "I'm not sending my kid to Mississippi." And I was like, this place is great. And I'm like, I gotta watch that movie. Never did. Anyway, but I would call. I remember my first, I don't know if it was the first kid I called, but it was my first huge recruit. I don't know if you remember now, LZ Coleman up in Newburgh. Set the 400-meter indoor national record. I remember calling LZ, and we have a good rapport and all that kind of stuff. And he was going to come on a visit. And I said, it was back then when we only had 5 crazy rules today. But I said, "So who are your other 4? Like, who else are you going to visit?" And he was like, "Oh, I'm going to USC, TCU, back DA was, there, TCU, Baylor, quarter miler U, in Florida. And I remember because I thought, oh, recruiting is going to be easier because
Yep.
Mississippi State and all that kind of stuff. And I remember, it hit me as soon as he told me his other four, so the total five. I was like, oh, wait, this didn't get easier. This got a lot harder actually because he just said Gainesville, Florida. Mouse is a mentor of mine. When I was a high school coach, he used to talk to me all the time. Love him to death for that. And I was like, oh, I got to beat Mouse. And oh wait, I got to beat LA. I'm in Starkville. I got to beat Los Angeles. Wait, I got to beat Quarter Miler U.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this did not get easier. Yeah, they may know the school, at least the conference, but they don't. Oh my God, I got to go beat these guys.
Yeah.
And by the way, I only tell that story because I signed them. I actually did win this one. But if I didn't sign them, I would never.
Funny story about LZ is I'm from New York.
Yeah, right. Yeah, of course you know.
I call his coaches and they just like, nah, Kentucky ain't doing anything for us.
Yeah. So that was going to be my question then. Now, so I got real quickly maybe my first realization of imposter syndrome. Like, oh, maybe I'm not supposed to be on this level. Now you ran for a Florida, so there's a little bit of like, yeah, this is my level. I ran here. There's maybe some inherent self-confidence there, and where I had a lack of. But I wondered, okay, you get to Kentucky, you get to the SEC, and Kentucky then was not what Kentucky is now,
right?
In regards to versus the Floridas and Arkansas and LSU's, etc. How did you? I mean, you signed some good kids right off the bat. You changed the men's sprints program very drastically in those 7-8 seasons you had there. Did you have any imposter syndrome? Did you have any like, we're Kentucky, we're not supposed to get, I'm gonna use LZ as an example, we're not supposed to get an LZ, but the 47 high guy, that we can get that guy. No, you went straight for number one.
Right at man. I was on the phone with Ted Ginn Jr. and his father, and as well as
good friend of mine.
Xavier Carter and his family. I'm talking with Joker Phillips. Joker was like, Xavier. And he's the number one wide receiver. Teddy Ginn, and Ted's father.
Dude, so wait, Joker, did he try to recruit Ted for football?
Oh yeah.
All right, let me tell you this little story. So Ted Ginn Jr. So I at that point was the national junior high hurdle coach for USATF. So I got to bring the 3 top high hurdlers out to Chula Vista. Jahan Colbreth, you might know that name. He's a 400 meter hurdle guy. His dad was a big Puerto Rico, I think, was an Olympian 400 meter hurdle.
Colbreth. Oh yeah.
So Jahan brought the 3 best 300, 400 hurdlers out of high school down there. And so Ted was one of our guys. We got to bring Ted out. So I got to know Ted and his family, all that kind of stuff. Still to this day. And we had, the top 3 guys every year. I mean, it was amazing. Still the number one most athletic kid I've ever seen. It was just stupid how athletic he was.
Yeah.
So I feel like I got kind of an in. I know him. Yeah. I get to know his dad. I do a home visit, all this kind of stuff. But I know he's a football player. Like, it's going to be football and maybe track, but it's going to be football. So I go to our DB at Mississippi State, our DB's coach, secondary coach, and I was like, hey man, I got this guy. I feel like we're not gonna get him, but I got an in. Like, I know the family, all this kind of stuff. And he tells me, I'm glad I don't remember his name because he's probably still coaching somewhere. He tells me, he's like, it's a little bit on the short side. I like my DBs to be 6 foot. And I think Ted was like 5, might have been 5'8", but maybe 5'10" probably. And I was like, yeah, but he's the number one player in the nation. And by the way, we weren't very good. So it's not like he had a bunch of, by the way, I don't think a single DB he had was over 6 feet, but he would not recruit him. I don't know if it was, pride, like, who's this track guy?
That's how it has been.
But still,
no knocks on him, but
national player of the year. This isn't my dumb opinion. It blew me away of like, it don't matter who I bring to you then. Like, I literally was like, okay, get that thought process that football's going to help you and vice versa. If they won't take the national player of the year, who the hell else are you going to bring that they're going to recruit? You know what I'm saying? So,
right.
But Joker was smart. He was like, yeah, this guy's good.
He was like, Tuck, if you talk to him, let's set up a call and we can get on together, we never got past connecting the two. I think
it was Ohio State the whole time, by the way. Yeah. I think like the 3 in a row players of the year all came from Glenville, and all 3 went to Ohio State. I mean, it was just
right.
I love Ted Ginn Sr. He's such an amazing person. But yeah, there was definitely a pipeline going on.
It bothered me that he never ran track at Ohio State.
Dude, I used to do, would never recommend this. I'm actually, this will tell you how good of a coach I was. And what I mean by that is not that good. At the end of camp, so we, 4 days or something like that, Chula Vista, they already had their whole season. They're tired. It was
Yeah.
only, you've done camps. What are you doing on the
Yeah.
fourth day, right? Well, I really liked, kind of as a predictor, I read this from Wilbur Ross. You know Wilbur Ross,
Yep.
the
Yep.
great hurdle Bible and all that. Setting up the first 3 hurdles and the last 3 hurdles of the 110, cheating the first 3, but
Mhm.
legit in the last 3, because you're gonna run, you're gonna
Yep. Yep.
right? And every kid, and I'm telling you, the other athletic kid I had was from New Jersey. He ran 400 hurdles at Baylor. Who would that have been? That doesn't really narrow it down. Kind of a short kid, but was a super stud, like #1 recruit in the nation.
Oh, Dwight Ruff.
Was it Dwight? It was Dwight. So we had
Yeah,
Dwight.
I recruited him as well at Illinois.
Dwight was so athletic.
Oh yeah.
We were making up drills to see how quickly he would adapt to them. And
Mhm.
on the second or third try, you think like he's been doing that forever. One of the most
Got it.
athletic kids in the world. And he did this drill, this 3-on-3 workout. No one, Ted Ginn is blaze. I mean, he's super fast.
Yeah.
He's blazing him, after the third hurdle, running through 4, 5, 6, 7, gets to 8, 9, and 10. And I can't remember his splits, but they were something just absolutely dumb. And I remember walking over to my boss. It was Mike Holman. He was the performance chair for these kids for
Yep.
USATF. And I went over, I go, hey man, I think it was my third year. I had Justin Gatlin. So I'm telling you, we had the
Yeah.
top of the kids, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't say that Jay. Jay he had done his freshman year, so everybody knew how good he was. But
Yeah.
but I go over to my guy and I go, hey, I don't know who you need to talk to, but we should really be watching this kid. This kid, he'll set the world record. Like this is unbelievable. No one's seen this stuff. And then he goes on and has a fairly good, he probably would tell you not a football career in the NFL that he would have wanted,
Right.
and still made $100 bazillion more than he would ever even be in the world record of the hurdler, unfortunately. Yeah. I love that. Okay, sorry,
Good.
You're getting me on stories of like kids. I just have so much fun. I love that you had connections with them too, man. That's so fun. That's so fun. 7 years at Kentucky. Eight. Sorry, 8. How did you, when you stay with me at the 8th year? Let's say you're getting ready to leave, but not left yet. When you look at how you developed a team over those 8 years, and you think about Tucker at U of I and Tucker at Florida, how did you evolve positively as a coach during that time?
I started coaching women in year 2.
Oh, okay. That was a difference.
Started coaching women. That made me a better coach.
How so?
It was no more of intimidation, yelling, rah-rah. It wasn't even kumbaya. It was listen now. Pay attention, body language, pull someone to the side. I always had, I was people know me when I'm at a meet. I'm yelling at meets
for good or bad. Right? Yes, we do.
Good or bad, right? And so, and clearly it was one particular thing that I would say, well, people know, but I'm still, yelling cues at meets. And so one of the things that I had to change leaving Illinois, because I saw some tension between me and the guys at times, was when I did swear, I told myself when I started coaching women, if I swear, it has to be in a calm voice. Mm-hmm. I can come over and like, hey, you're better than that. What was that? Mm-hmm. Come on, like you, that sugar honey iced tea was terrible. Mm-hmm. Stuff like that. Mm-hmm. If I'm yelling, keep the curses inside.
Right.
Every now and again, it will be a slip across the track. What the was that? Yeah, right, you know what I mean? Right. But for the most part, it was, and still to this day, if I'm giving a cue, I'm yelling.
Did you have to learn that from someone, or did that come naturally?
I was told.
Like, did Doug pull you to side? Like, I'm thinking of a Doug Weber.
No, I was just, hey, Weber, hey, you got the women coming. You can't treat them like you treat the guys. Yeah. The women literally told me when I met with them before the summer when I was taking over, they was like, the only thing that we want from you is to treat us like you treat the guys. And I was like, well, sometimes I yell and curse. And
yeah,
like,
be careful what you ask for. Yeah.
But they said, you better yell and curse at us too. And I was like, well, I probably won't. And then one of them was like, well, we gonna cry, but we still accept it. And I was like, I don't want nobody at practice crying because of me. And then one of the girls was like, well, your boys be in the locker room crying already.
It's funny now, but that had to make you cringe a little bit, right? Like, oh, yeah. Wait a minute, what am I doing? Because you're growing up, like you said, you're 23 when you get to U of I, right? So you're 30, 33, and near the end of Kentucky. Mm-hmm. There's maturity that happens during that time. You had to be a little bit like, all right, hold on. What am I doing if this is what
Yeah,
the
for
outcome?
sure. For
Yeah.
sure. Because I left. So my oldest son was born when I was at Kentucky. I was 33.
Oh, and that changes you dramatic. Having a child is one of the, even more
Holding,
than marriage, bro. It's
holding this kid in my arms. And I tell
yes,
to this day, people think this is a recruiting pitch. I said, I became, first of all, coaching women made me better.
yes,
Coach and having a child made me the best coach I could possibly be because at
agreed.
this point, I need to look at all of my athletes the same way I would want someone to look at my child, and so paying it forward. And so it literally, the cursing part of it kind of changed. I was like, I don't curse around my kids. Why am I cursing around other people's kids?
Right,
For
right,
some that can take it, some people were born in that environment like I was. And so for them, but for the most part, it isn't anything.
right,
I don't curse when I coach with most of them.
right.
I challenge them. And sometimes those are uncomfortable conversations, but I try to keep this tone when I'm having those challenging conversations and let them know, but yeah, it was having that son. Literally that spring, Mouse wanted me to come back.
You're not going to believe this. Since you've been in Champaign, you would maybe understand. Did you ever go? No, we were in the old factory, even if you
Yeah, the
ever
old
did.
one.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a window here in the recording studio, and I have no idea why this would occur. This is something so odd. That's why I'm telling you this. Five or six dude, they look high schoolish, and my blinds are kind of close, so I can't see them real
Yeah.
well. I swear they just race walked up to our front door. That is not a normal Gill occurrence. I see pole poles walk by all the time with people. I've
Right.
never seen like a gaggle of race. That is, I gotta find out what that is after we get off. That's a little odd for me.
So
Attack
funny,
of race walkers is like my worst nightmare, by the way.
funny story about Gil. Remember the stretching Gil bags?
Mhm, mhm.
I
The
was at Illinois.
what do we
I
call
was
those things? Sling
at
bag or something? Yeah,
when Iowa lost their bags. Coach Doyle, I think Capos, and whoever else was
yeah, yeah,
dealing there, they went and found these bags. Those Iowa boys in Champaign threw
yeah,
really far, and then we had a scandal
yeah.
because everybody was like, "Oh, I want to get the Gill bag, get the Gill bag,
Oh,
get the Gill
bro,
bag," and so I
I
was on the
remember
ground floor for that.
every throws coach. I was at Ball State, and so everybody, if you don't have that bag, you don't do anything.
You don't
Yeah,
do
yeah,
anything.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There's a reason why it's not legal anymore. Yeah, yeah.
Right,
We
right.
used to joke with Gary Winkler, the women's head coach at U of
Yeah,
I, because he would, Saturday morning get ready to go for a meet, or Friday afternoon getting ready to travel to meet, and forget like, oh, I didn't have spikes, or oh, I don't have batons, and so he'd come over, and I was like, actually it wasn't me, it was before me, but they'd be like,
yeah.
Gary, do you know how lucky you are? Like you have the Walmart of track and field equipment in your
Yes.
backyard, so you can come do that. Nobody else gets to do. They're
No.
just out of luck. It's just so
Yeah,
funny.
yeah.
All right, in the essence of time, let's just do just a little bit of fast forwarding. So you
Okay.
leave Kentucky to go to Florida.
Yep.
Real quick, how long were you at Florida?
4 years.
Okay, what is it like? This is always fascinates me too. You knew Mouse very much like your coach. That's a
Yep.
relationship, a very and should be
Mentor.
a mentor. Well, first
Mhm.
as a coach maybe, and
Yep.
then maybe more as a mentor. You talked about.
Yep.
I love. We got to find a way to explore this a little bit more with you and Mouse one day. I love this. Like, oh yeah, I coach like him. I agree with this. Oh, we kind of grew apart in our styles, and then we came back, and then there's
Yep.
that's an interesting dynamic of coaching that I think a lot of people need to hear and know and understand. So I love that. We won't be able to get in that to today, but
Yep.
now you come back as his assistant coach. That's not a like you
Yeah.
you were inching closer and closer to a very unlevel, even though he was a head coach and you were assistant
Yep.
coach.
Yep.
Now you are his assistant, though. That automatically puts you back down. How did you adjust to that dynamic of like, man, this was my coach. This is my now he's my boss. That's a
Right.
little different. How did you adjust to that?
It was, we because we always talked and we had a good relationship. I saw him as like big brother, uncle, and so I definitely respected him. Nick Peterson used to always laugh and like I don't understand this dynamic between us because we
Sure.
were still kind of joshing with each other. But then if it was like he could give you that look and it's like, all right, I'm back being assistant. What do you need?
That's funny because we saw that look on TV when he won nationals and Grant
Yep.
was
Yep.
being Grant and
Yep.
all Mouse did was just look and Grant goes. I mean, that's funny that you described that because we saw and it's like, oh, that's a real thing.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Ah,
that's kind of how we would. It was light switch up, said the wrong thing, and but we will we will be fine, because I
yeah,
can take whatever
right.
anybody throws at me. I'm not gonna, there. And then we had some times when we were talking about some things in hurdles where we didn't agree, and and
Yeah. So
again,
how do you work that out? Yeah.
if I was you, I would.
You're so smart.
You can debate, like, again, the first conversation, it is you're going back and forth debating, and then be like, all right, I trust you. But if he comes back to it, you just need to forget about what you thought you were doing. And all right, so what do you think? And initially, because we had obviously grown apart, came back, we had to, he was seeing the workouts. I was, okaying him through the workouts. And then he was like, Tuck, stop sending me the workouts. I know you got it. And I was like, all right, cool. We had a shared drive, and you can look at anybody's workouts whenever you wanted to.
Oh, that's cool.
We had that ability to do that. And so, we worked hand in hand with the 400 hurdlers. They pretty much a quarter miler. So they did whatever the quarter miles did, and I would adjust their workouts.
I'm not. This is the way I should be filming this. Now the gaggle is going that way, and maybe because of the slits of the what do they call
the blinds?
Blinds. Maybe they're not actually race walk, because they kind of look like they're going a little fast now. Maybe it just looks like they are. That's the weirdest thing in the world to me, though, because we're at a place, there is no high school, there's no school around here. I don't know where these kids would come from, but they look
Killer
like
clowns from outer space.
That's weird, bro. That's what it is. It's killer race walkers from Muhammad or something. Yeah. Oh man, it's so weird. I'm sorry. That's just odd.
No, it's good. It's good.
Yeah, that had to feel good when he said, stop sending me the workouts, right? Because there's a little bit of like, okay, like not that and maybe I could be wrong. He doesn't feel like a micromanager to me, but he's a guy who knows a lot of things. But that had to feel like a little bit of a release, like, oh, there's trust. Like, okay, he trusts me. Yeah.
And that was the main reason he brought me in. He wanted me in 2 years prior. My son was just born. I didn't want to leave him. So once he was 2, Mouse was like, Tuck, you ready to come back? And I was like, well, yeah, sure. You know what I mean? And so, but we talked, and he was like, I want you to coach the hurdles. I have small group of hurdlers. You can grow it. Got a lot of sprinters. I don't have the bandwidth. I feel like I'm being torn in 2 different directions. I need somebody I trust that can do the job. And one of the things that we ended up finding out was whenever he would finish with sprint practice across the track, he would come over, pull a chair up and sit down, and my hurdlers would start trying so hard. And they would start messing up. He was like, they don't look the same as they did. I wanted to come and watch practice, and now, and then I'm like, you can't come to hurdle practice. Just stay on the other side of the track.
That's interesting.
Watch it, take notes. But when you come over, they want to, and anytime he gave them a cue, hey, bring your arm in a little bit. We've been working on, say y'all working on, why don't you listen to your coach? Work on your arm. And they don't work on anything else but their arm for the rest of practice. And Mouse is like, I can't come to practice anymore. I just can't. I ruin everybody when I come home.
That's interesting. Our CEO, who was a 4-time pole vault All-American at Baylor, very smart. I mean, took Gil literally from bankruptcy to where we are today. Same thing. He has to be very careful what meetings he goes to, because he changes the dynamic. Yeah, it's just natural when a Mouse or David Hodge is there. It's like, oh, the big dog's here. No, I love you, Tuck, but that's the big dog.
I got to do it right. I got to do it right.
I'm glad he had the, I guess maybe the lack of ego. He could have been like, hey, dude, I'm the head honcho around here. I can be at any practice I want anytime. You guys need to do your job. And instead, he had the lack of ego, like, oh, okay, I affect things here, not in a positive way. Okay, let me back off, and I'll see you at the meter, whatever. Yeah. That's interesting. Did you find because I'm asking this because I feel like I would do this. Right. Did you find yourself, so the same thing you just described with the athletes when Mouse would come, did you find yourself coaching wise? Like, did you, like when Mouse came to sit down, did you, I'm gonna say, tighten up in your coaching, if you know what I'm saying?
No, when he would come over, I would welcome him into the group and like say, hey, I'm looking at this. Can you see if you see this?
Okay, so you guys are very collaborative. Like there was no like, oh man, I may see something, Mouse is gonna think it's wrong, or it was more like, oh cool, I got another set of eyes. We're very copacetic in what we're thinking about and looking at here with the athletes.
And one of the things he recognized is that he had gotten away from some elementary hurdle drills that I continued to do. And he was like, Tuck, I really love, man, I forgot we used to do those. I love the fact that you're doing that with them again. You know what I mean? The things like that. So we definitely, he was definitely helpful for me when he coming over. And sure, I'm coaching the hurdlers, but he would tell me things. Hey, I need you to do this with Eddie, or this with the girls, and whatever the case may be. And he was good. He was good. Cool. I appreciated it.
I love that. All right. Real quick, little housekeeping. We're at the end of our time. Are you good for a few more, or do you?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So 4 years at Florida, did you say?
4 years at Florida.
Before we go to where you go next, which we know where that is, I guess, maybe. At this point, have you done any coaches education when I talk about coaching education, I think of it kind of two ways. Both are extremely important. I'm not sure one is actually more important than the other. There's informal, informal. Informal would be I call Mouse up or we sit down after practice and we talk. That's a coaching education. That 100%. Formal is more of like the USATF level ones, level twos, UFTF, CCCAs, Altus, etc. At this point, kind of at the point of the last year at Florida, have you done any of those?
Funny, me and Mouse were in a USATF level one coaching certification class together.
Together.
I was in college.
I can't see Mouse sitting in level one. I'm sorry.
And the teacher was Tom Jones. So Mouse, an assistant coach, his head coach and so me and him were competitive on who's going to get the better grade,
yeah, of course,
the best project, of course, and so that was great. But that was it. And then symposiums at coaches conventions, and I'll pull someone aside. I'll talk to Vince. I'll
right.
talk to John Smith. I'll pull him to the side and just ask questions. I was that kind of person. So
yeah, I wasn't sure. I could see you extracting a lot of value in those what we call side hallway conversations, but because of your educational background, I could see you kind of low key being like a cert guy. There's some guy. I was that guy. They want to get all the certifications. They're just that's how they're built. And again, I was that guy. But you weren't that. You weren't the guy who's going. You're not doing all the 101s, 201s at USTF CCA and all that kind of stuff.
Well, Tom Jones told us, and I don't know, it was a class at UF, and so I don't know how many people actually wanted to coach. But he could have been talking to me and Mouse, and he was like, "Look, this is education, is to help you." And he said, you don't want to be that guy that's only X's and O's or only a data person. You got to feel what you're doing. You got to understand the athlete, and I took that as, well, I don't need any more education. I'm good.
I'll get the feel, baby.
And so, but yeah, and that's where my first few years at Illinois, I was a maniac. I probably should have done I actually put on some clinics and went to clinics, during that time. And I remember Winkler had a clinic, and we had a retreat at a cabin. Jerry Clayton came in.
Yeah, I've heard about this. Yeah.
The head coach, Phil Lundeen from Minnesota, was there.
Yeah.
We brought in, welcome to, what is the guy's name? He writes a lot of books. I'm failing right now.
Oh yeah, you got to give a few more context.
I know. I'm talking to myself out loud. I'm not talking to screen, so please edit that. I'm joking.
No,
I can't remember. It was two other guys. One young man was from, I want to say, Poland. Had a lot of Eastern European philosophy and training, and I got a lot from them. And that's kind of where I said I kind of went apart and came back.
Right.
So that was awesome because it was 2 days. Those guys all stayed at the cabins. I went home and came back. I'm a young guy. I'm not hanging out with you old guys. I'm gonna go back downtown Champaign and hang out with people my age, and then meet you in the morning.
That's right. Did you get to talk with Winkler a lot? He was super smart.
I did. Yeah. I would pop into his office and ask him. Yeah. He was really helpful in my hurdle spaces.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know you I coach men, but how would I the workout you did yesterday? How would I do that with the men? Oh, take a seat.
Yeah, super smart.
Super smart.
Again, that epitome of a teacher who's a coach. He's a great teacher.
He's telling me these measurements to recreate the workout that I saw the women. We had 2 Sweden women, Perdita Felicia, and they win a national championship, breaking records and sweeping Big Ten hurdle meets. Yeah. And he's writing it down, and maybe he had it memorized because I have stuff memorized, and he's just like, well, if we're gonna go 785, this is probably for a guy, let's probably go 850. He was still with us. You don't need a calculator for that?
So he's a little bit of a calculator brain.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, before I forgot to ask this question before we get to where we go to next here. Did you ever call your high school coach who said you were going to be a coach one day and tell him, well, I guess you nailed it? Any?
No, well, that was Doug that said that. That you're going to be.
Oh, yeah. That's right. I'm sorry.
So, the high school story for that one was my high school coach used to always say, how many coaches do we have here? And it was him, and we had a throws coach. And I would always say 3.
Yeah.
joking around.
Right. I was saying you were not coach mode at all back then. Yeah.
Joking
Right.
around
Right. Right. Right.
because I'm captain and they gonna listen to me, but joking around. And I remember when I started
Wow.
coaching Illinois, he was like, "Jokes on you, buddy."
Yeah. You. That's awesome. I love that. I
Yeah,
love that. You know, we can't see the future when we're in it, but when we look back, it's like, holy crap! I was calling myself the coach in high school, and
right.
I wasn't gonna be no coach. Yeah. 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 That's
Nope, nope, nope.
all right. 4 seasons back at Florida. Pretty cool going back to your alma mater as a coach.
Oh yeah, it's you couldn't tell me nothing, man. It was
Yeah.
amazing being back there. We were winning and
Yeah.
athletes
Yeah.
were running well and feel like I was taking a lot off of Mouse's plate so he can, be the best version of himself he can be,
Yeah.
which was awesome. And you know how that when he's a great version of himself, they do well,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so that was awesome. But during the time, you're leading your own thing for 11 years and then now you're back being a subordinate for 4.
Sure.
That's a harsh word to say, but
No,
back to being an
I,
assistant.
I get that. I think people
Yeah.
get what you said. Yeah, that makes sense.
I missed coaching the sprints.
Mm,
Sure, I could talk to the guys, I could motivate them, but I just missed coaching the sprints, and when we had some workouts, if I was available, I could time things, but it's just not the same.
yeah.
It wasn't, it's nothing about me writing the workouts. It's just not, it's just more so maybe talking to them before they did the workouts. I probably could have channeled it a different way, but I also saw my path, like, how am I going to become a head coach
Mm-hmm.
here? Only because Mouse would always tell me, like, man, so and so just told me good job that you did with Eddie, or good job you did with Nadu, or somebody else, and it's just like, Tuck did that. I don't coach them, and I was like, man, so people in the country don't think I'm coaching these people,
Right.
you
Right.
know, and and one of those similar conversations, like, Mouse, do you think I could become a head coach here, from here to become a head coach, and he was like, yeah, but it's yeah, maybe not. It's just, he
Mm-hmm.
just wasn't confident in that. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, man. And so around that time, Florida Relays, John Gondak was at Penn State. He got hired that fall. I called him, congratulating, because we worked together at Kentucky.
Mm-hmm. Oh, is that
Anything you
right?
need.
I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
we worked
Yeah.
together at Kentucky my first 2 years. I'm like, anything you need, I got you. Recruits, whatever it is, I got you.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to be successful. You're my guy. And so you fast forward to Florida Relays, I'm talking to him, just about, a couple different things. And I can kind of tell he wanted to, like, I don't know if he was, I don't want to say happy or not happy with his coach, but
Sure.
I could just tell it was something there. And I didn't want to investigate it because I'm happy where I'm at.
Right.
And it wasn't until we were leaving for, I think, regionals, Mouse was like, Gondak just called me and he wants to talk to you about a position. And I was like, really? And I was like, Penn State? And he was like, yeah. And he was like, you got to listen, probably associate head coach. And I was like, okay. So,
Mm.
I called him. I was like, what's up? What's going on? And, and we set up to talk at nationals, outdoor nationals. And then, we made it happen.
Yeah, I didn't know you were. I don't think I knew John was at Kentucky.
Yeah.
I've gotten to know him over the past few years and really enjoy him. He's a very, you know him, better than I do.
Yeah.
He's a
Yeah.
very quiet guy. He has his circle, and that's what he does.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I've always had great. He's been very open and honest with me. I've really enjoyed him. How did you, that was Big Ten. That's not
Big Ten.
SEC. Not SEC.
Back
I
to the
mean,
Big
you're
Ten.
back to the Big Ten, but it's not SEC. What did you gain at being the associate head coach there? Think you kind of alluded to this, but you're really talking about being you want to be a head coach, maybe be a head coach at Florida. So I need to get head coaching experience. You didn't go become the head coach at Penn State. You became the associate head coach.
Yeah.
How did John help with your continued development towards a goal of becoming the head coach?
So
I want to say
he let me be me, and he knew that socially that wasn't his strength. And so he leaned on me, to kind of bring the team together. So I felt like I was a glue. Maybe the athletes didn't think that way, but I could bounce around from different event groups. While at practice, while my kids are warming up, my sprinters used to hate it. Why are you always over there with the jumpers? Why are you always over there with the throws? I was like, because I'm going to be with you for the next hour. Can you let me just say hello?
Right.
I hear, Lucas tell a throw or something and be like, and then they'll come back and I'm like, so what did he mean when he said that? And I know why he said it, but I'm just asking them like I'm ignorant, so I can get
Right.
them. As teachers, if you're teaching something, you have to know the info. That's why, when class presentations, you're going to prepare to present in front of a group. You don't want to look like a fool.
Right.
And so just letting them talk to me and then look at Lucas and, give him a wink, or same thing with Fritz or someone. And, even with the middle distance runners, as they're doing workouts and they're cooling down, I'm like, so tell me about the workout today. How was it? And how'd you do compared to last year? What are you looking forward to in the next few weeks? And, and wouldn't even really report back to coaches because it wasn't spying or anything. It was just trying to get to understand, that you're getting some good coaching and, you understand what's going on. So this next meet
team
coming up,
dynamic part of it. Yeah.
100%, 100%. I would kind of give a lot of the rah-rah at our team meetings,
Right.
and I was, and a lot of it, athletes are like, man, coach, I really like when you talk to us, man. It's just get us hyped up, and how long it take you to write it. And I'm just like, that was passionate. I didn't write that.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Which is crazy because now as a head coach, I feel like I don't get that.
Is that right?
Yeah, because I'm the bad guy, right? Like,
sure.
do this.
That's a good point.
And so
I think it's important to point out, just as we talk about development as coaches and things like that, it should be celebrated, if you will, John's self-awareness of like, okay, that's not me. That's not my strength. He has other big strengths.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
not it. Well, I better, real leaders, whether it's CEOs, head coaches, athletic directors, understand what their strengths are, very much understand what their weaknesses are, and then go and surround themselves with people who are really strong on their weaknesses. And so I just think it's important because sometimes we like to get caught up too much in like, well, I want everybody to be like me. I want everybody to be a Tuck. I want everybody to be the raw guy. And it's like, well, you're going to suffer in some aspects because there's going to be some holes in the ship there. So I think that's like I said, almost to be celebrated from John and realizing that's a good lesson there. Did you, one of the things I think we do very poorly in all track and field, mainly here in college as a career of a college track coach, is preparing our assistant coaches to become head coaches. And what I mean by that is, every new head coach I talk to, they're surprised at what it takes to do a budget. They're surprised at what it takes to, travel and set a schedule. They're surprised that they're going to be on committees at their new universities because their head coach to hire their next basketball coach. They're surprised that it goes beyond, it goes way beyond what they think about the hour and a half, 2 hours that you're in the sandpit or in the ring, etc. Did he share any of the, like, were you able to start doing equipment or travel or anything of those aspects?
So we had equipment managers, we had director of ops that did travel.
Right.
So, I would talk, but me, I'm going to go and find the answers. I don't wait, I'm not going to wait. My dad call, I'm going to call my dad. So I will go in and talk to him about different things. If there are head coaches meetings, he would have me go to those. Any staff
good. Yeah, okay, that's a big one. Okay, yeah, good.
Those are big, and I would run a staff meeting if he wasn't there. He gave me the notes, so he definitely gave me a lot of things. And then just watching him, and even after meetings or whatever, I can go back and talk to him, and be like, hey, what was your thoughts when you did this and that? And one of the things that I really do appreciate, we had regular scheduled team meetings, regular scheduled staff meetings, like I do now, and I would always see him rehearsing. Because it's not socially front forward, right? Front facing. And so, I would see him rehearsing. And so what that taught me, not necessarily rehearsing, but I can, as we see right now, we're over, right? I can go and I'm going to go over, right? In things that I do if I don't have it. So when I have team meetings, I have a sheet of paper that just has bullet points for me to get back to the point.
Right.
I have 30-minute staff team meetings, 30 minutes. And I tell my athletes, when I get to 30, if I'm still going, raise your hand, start raising your hands, because that'll make me speed it up and get us out of there.
Right.
But if I don't have this sheet, we'll be in there for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Staff meetings, we try to go an hour pretty much every week in the fall. And then in the spring, we'll probably go hour and a half, sometimes 2, because we're talking about entries.
So
why?
So let's catch up, because you're talking about what you're doing today. So let's catch up here a bit. So how many years at Penn State?
7 years at Penn State.
7 years. Is that right? Wow. And Penn State to Eastern Washington.
Penn State to Eastern Washington. Yep.
It was a little bit of a surprise when it was announced. Not necessarily that first of all, no surprise that you were a head coach. No, I don't. I think everybody saw that path. maybe a surprise to just wait. Like, you've done as west as you've gone has been Champaign, Illinois.
Yeah, yeah.
You got really far west. Why Eastern Washington?
So two reasons. So we got to talk about the first one. As I had to convince myself when I
Mm,
even applied, right? Convince myself. You were born in the Northeast. You were born in New York. You took your happy butt all the way down to Florida and to the
that's
South,
huge. Yeah.
and then you left and went to the Midwest, right? Kind of played around there for a little while, Kentucky in that area, but not really Midwest. Went back South, went back to Midwest, and then you came back to the East. Where have you not been in this United States of America, right? All right, so never thought I'd live in the Pacific Northwest until I retired. So let me go there now. And the last part of where I would like to be at some point in my career is the Southwest. And then someone can say, most New Yorkers never leave a 20 square block.
Right.
And so I would have hit all four corners of the United States and the Midwest. You can't tell me nothing in retirement. You know what I mean? You can't,
Yeah.
can't, can't tell me anything. And so the second reason was clearly we're in FCS football, smaller
Right.
Division One. Our budgets aren't the same as Power Five, Power
Right.
Four, I would say.
Yep.
I was in final two head coach searches the last 2 years with more schools than I want to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Literally to the point where some of my fraternity brothers that are headhunters are like, we should do mock interviews with you because maybe we're missing something, maybe you're messing up.
Right.
Can
right,
you
right.
interview well? That's always, oh, you can't get a job, you're not interviewing well.
Yeah.
I'm always transparent with my friends and family about that stuff.
Yep.
Did a couple with my buddies and they was like, no, you're great. Shit, you want a job with me? It's like, no, I can't go. So it wasn't that.
Yeah.
And I felt like because I thought I was an associate head coach, I could apply and put myself there, which is what I did. But I was final twos with people that had head coach experience that were getting those jobs, interim, and then, you get someone that's hot that comes from a program that just won, then it's hard. Right. So one of the things that I had to figure out was in my last year, came down to four schools I can kind of talk about: 2 Power 5, 2 Group of 5, or 2 Power 4, Group of 5. The 2 top schools, my last question, and I tell my athletes all the time, when you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you.
Amen. Amen.
You have to find a way to take the power back. What do you do? And I'm not going to tell you the schools, but you take the power back. Your last question: do you have any more questions for us? And that's when you hit them in the jugular, right? So the 2 big schools, I asked them, so you have my plan, my enthusiasm, you have me on campus, you like what you're hearing. Do you think my lack of head coach experience is going to stop me from doing a job that you will want me to do? Both of those schools were like, well, that's something we have thought about. That told me I'm not getting a job.
Yeah.
Right? The 2 smaller schools, Eastern being one of them, asked that same question, changed the end. Are you afraid that because I was at the Power 4, after 2-3 years of success that I would leave? And, so one school was highly offended. Some key stakeholders were in the Zoom and they were like, he's already thinking about leaving. I had a mole that told me this, so that's how I knew exactly what they said. When I said that to the great Lynn Hickey, we were face to face. She leaned over. She said, if you are fighting for Big Sky championships and you're a top 25 team in 1 year or two, and the big Power 4 school comes calling, I'm going to help you pack your bags because that's where you need to do. That's where you need to go. And you would have done everything we need you to do here at Eastern.
What a freaking leader.
I was like, do you want me to sign in blood or do you want me to I'm done.
Dude, that is someone who believes there's an adage, and it's some in athletics, but definitely private sector of, about training, like making them better at their job. And it's like, well, what if you train them and they leave? And it's like, well, what if you don't and they stay? And that is exactly what she was thinking. It's like, dude, I hope, paraphrasing here, she was almost like, I hope you get headhunted for big schools because that means you're doing the job here, for crying out loud.
Right.
Wow. That's someone, and also someone who's that other situation sounds like maybe there was some intimidate and they were intimidated. This is someone who is not intimidated.
No.
Wow. Love her. You said Lynn Hickey? Is that what you said?
Lynn Hickey. She was at UTSA before.
Yeah.
And she retired. And, after my first year, she retired and she's back in Texas. Saw her when I went down for the first round meet. We had dinner together, and she is working to make equestrian an NCAA event.
Really?
If you look up whatever their organization is. She just became the president. She's been working. She started it at, I think, either UTSA or Texas A&M. I can't remember which school she started equestrian there, but she's still blazing trails even at this point, man.
Dude, that's awesome.
She's amazing.
I love that. I love that.
Oklahoma AIAW basketball legend.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I call it Lynn, even when I talk to her, I'm like, hey, the great Lynn Higgins. She's like, oh no.
I love that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So spoiler alert, obviously you took the Eastern Washington job.
Yep.
So my favorite question, I asked this, it's really two questions. I asked this of every coach when they become a head coach. Once you get some time into it, what was something, and you had a lot of great experience, associate head coach at Penn State, a great leaders in John and Mouse, and even Coach Weber. I don't think Don sometimes gets his due because you get a little overshadowed with
amazing
Edric and Lonnie there being now there. But I knew Don, he recruited one of our high school kids when I coached in Chicago. So I've known Don for a while. He doesn't get his due. And still doing great for our sport, by the way, as the kind of events manager and facility manager down there. What was something that you thought was going to be easy because of all this preparation you've had, and then you actually got in the chair and was like, oh, okay, a little bit tougher than I thought. And I'm talking about, remember we talked about all those hats you're wearing? I'm talking about all those hats: academics, scheduling, budgeting, recruiting, coaching. There's so many things. What was something you thought like, oh yeah, I've been doing this all those schools, no problem. But then you got to the actual chair and was like, a little tougher than I thought.
It's crazy that you say that because I was thinking, and I kind of alluded to this when I was at Penn State, even Florida, you kind of like that glue guy moving around. Everybody loves you, or at least you think they do. Oh, what's up, coach? And, and you motivated me really well. And I feel like, sure, there are some athletes, and it could just be the level. It could be their classification as they get older. They might understand it a little bit more, and I always thought that I would walk in and everybody would love me.
And you're a lovable guy.
I am.
Yeah.
And so I had to continue reminding the athletes that change is hard. In year one, change is hard. We had some, 5th year, 6th year COVID people that, probably had their thoughts on what they wanted to see as they left. And
of course.
It wasn't the same,
Yep.
But, this fall, is the first fall of no one that was coached by the previous administration, which was a great staff, but we just have different voices.
Yeah, right.
And recruit. So this is the last year of their recruits, their incoming recruits.
Oh, okay.
So they're seniors, but they never were coached by them.
Yeah,
so
they didn't know. Right.
This is the only voice they've ever heard, and they all get it now.
Right.
So one of the things that when I say get it in team culture, you have to build it. It's hard. It takes time. During my first year, I just took a lot of notes on a lot of questions, general questions people had, concerns, took notes. So in my summer of before my second year, I created a track and field syllabus. A lot of schools will come up with a document that says important dates, and they may put dates you can leave. I was like, you know what? The first date on here is physicals for cross on August 1st. The last date on here is June 15th, June 14th, whatever that date is graduation for the quarter. Every date, homecoming, meeting, this, and this is all through here. It is on a Google Doc called. And I told them, if you ask me a question that's on this track syllabus, I will just send you the link. If the question is not on it, I'm going to answer it, and then I'm going to go back and see where this question or where this should be, what date should be on this document.
Right.
Where I knew that the culture was shifting in year 2, middle of the fall, one of my 5th year seniors asked a question about something that was on the syllabus. And one of my freshmen sent the link back in the group me. I was like, I got a freshman answering my question. 5th year senior. I was like, I was like, Aaron, you made it. You don't have to do anything else. You can retire.
Yeah. That's when they say, you got a positive culture when the coach doesn't have to say it. The team says it. They're the ones who drive the culture. That's a great example. Yeah. Yep. And some people, by the way, culture is the hardest thing to build positively, the easiest thing to damage negatively. Yep. Very easy. It sometimes takes a lot longer than that. This is in year 2. You've got movement.
It's like getting in shape. You get in shape. 4 weeks to get in shape. It takes 1 week, 2 days.
Yeah, that's
Out of
true.
shape.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, I love that. All right, so I said what was easy, you found hard, likability. You thought because again, you're an extrovert. You have a lot of charisma.
Yep.
You're the kind of guy you walk into a room if there's 100 people you don't
Saying
know.
what's up to everybody.
Yeah, they're going to know you. 199 of the 100 are going to know you by the
Yep.
night's over. Yeah, and you found out like, ooh, that's not always true when you're the head guy. All right, the second question is the reverse. So what did you think? You know, you're a very smart guy. You have some self-awareness. What did you think? Like, okay, you know what? At all these stops I've been to, I'll use an example that's pretty typical. I've never done a budget. That's going to be a little bit harder. But then when you got there, you're like, oh, there's no mysticism around this. So what did you think
Yep.
might be a little challenging for you? And then you found out like, oh, wait a minute, I'm either a natural or you know what? I just had to call one guy, taught me everything, or my AD taught me what was something you thought was going to be hard. It actually ended up being a little bit easier for you than you thought.
I thought what we would do scholarship wise, because we're not fully funded, I thought that
Mm-hmm.
was going to be really difficult.
Mm-hmm.
It took me literally my whole first year to kind of come to grips with it. And looking back on who I was, my first year, I was like, man, you lost a whole year trying to figure out your how you wanted to maneuver these scholarships. And so now, even when I talk to my wife or talk to friends, you know, it's just like you're speaking to us in a language we don't even understand,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because I didn't understand it then. And you know, it was extremely hard to conceptualize, but it wasn't hard at all when I look back and I was like, what were you doing? And I
Right.
was thinking to myself, I was doing everything. I was doing budgeting, I was doing traveling, you know, preparing workouts and preparing track meets and calling coaches and if they could come to our meets and wearing different hats. And so I was doing a lot and I just couldn't get my brain around how do I make this scholarship situation successful. And right now, going into year 4, I don't want to knock on wood, I don't want to jinx myself, but what we've been able to do the last 3 years with these scholarships, as limited as we are, this is probably the best team that I've connected with.
Yeah.
And I don't want to like put out a statement that will have alumni offended or
Right.
former athletes offended, but this could potentially go down as one of the best teams that ever
Yeah.
in Eastern history. So
Yeah.
we've done some really, now they got to do the work. So on
Yeah.
paper we
That's
look
right.
really good, but they got to do the work.
That's
We
right.
look really good with less. That's the
Yeah.
thing, with less.
Yeah.
So
History is a funny thing when you talk about, you kind of give yourself a little bit of a caveat of like, hey, not, you know, not defend any alumni, things like that. You know, the best team in EWU history today, it's different than what the teams looked like in the 60s, 70s, 80s,
yeah,
90s, early 2000s. It may be the best team because of you're facing a whole different headwind
yeah,
today in 2025 than we did in 2015 for crying out
yeah.
loud. So, but we also, you know, we're all history buffs in the sense of like, well, our team is the best. Like, how dare
Yeah.
you? And it, you know, you guys didn't even win. It's like, yeah, but man, we got second versus a team that spends 40 million in NIL or whatever. You know, there's
Right.
again so many different. Okay, Tuck, you've been so generous with your time. I've got
Yep.
two last questions, and
Okay.
I'll let you go home. Well, it's only 3:30 your time. It's
I have
5:30
practice
my
at,
time.
I have practice at 4 with
All right,
cross.
cool. Of
Right
course
now,
you do.
yeah,
Of course you do. All
yeah,
right. Last two questions. One is very specific to you. Where in the world did I'm not going to actually, no one's in the office. I should yell it out. Where did this move come from? You know, you are famous. No matter, we all know where you are in a track and field stadium because Tuck is going to yell out, move. Where did that come from? When's the first time you did it? Did someone slap you? And if they didn't, they maybe should have, but it's become your signature, my friend. So I do love it. Where'd that
So
come from?
New York, the Armory, indoor meets.
Okay.
I don't know what club coach, what high school coach was doing it. And it wasn't like I do it. It was just like, you know, it was probably to let them know they needed to do something to move. And I obviously do that as well. Where I brought it to coaching was when I was volunteering at Florida. Once I hung the spikes up, I used to say boom all the time. Mouse would say boom, I would say boom. We, you know, Ric Flair, woo, all that
Yeah,
stuff. So you
yeah,
make
yeah,
these
yeah,
loud, obnoxious noises at
yeah.
random points.
Right.
And so our high jumper was competing for a national championship, and it was at Duke. We got second that year as a team, and I was on one side of the horseshoe that they used to have.
Yeah.
One side of it had some teammates on the other side while the high jump was going, and we were just calling response, boom, move, boom, back and forth. And then I think during the 4x4, I might have started to do it as well. Like,
Yeah.
when they weren't doing what they needed to do. And random times in the year I would do it. And so it kind of started from there. I got to Illinois and I started finding myself doing it at practice. If I'm at the finish line and they're at the 200, how are they going to hear me?
Yeah.
Can't pick it up. They don't hear that.
Right.
Move, and they can
Yeah.
hear it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. And then someone told me at Drake Relays, it was like, yeah, we were at back then, the throws area wasn't right behind the scoreboard. It was someplace else.
Right.
I don't know where it was.
Yeah.
I never went to it.
Yeah.
I'm a horrible coach. I never went to the old throws area.
I never went to it.
Similar to Penn Relays, like I literally got to year 5 at Penn Relays, and I was like, Lucas, I'm gonna come out there and see you guys throw because I've never been over there. He was like, really? I was like, yeah, I'm a horrible coach. I'm coming over tomorrow morning just to see what's going on. He was like, well, great, awesome. He was like, I've never seen anybody over here anyway.
Yeah, bring snacks because it's a far haul.
It was a haul, man. I was over there. I was like, what is happening over here? Why are you guys?
The problem is
you guys are in New York.
Yeah, I'd say the problem's not getting over there. It's like you have to go back. I mean, it's a double, brother. Yeah.
Well, so, that's where it came from, man.
I love that. You were a guy, when I had Mouse on the show, I promised, I said, well, I can't leave this without asking, how did Mouse, the nickname come through? Yeah. And when we reached out, I was like, there's no way I'm not asking where the signature move, if you will, came from. And I do love the uniqueness of it. I'm not going to say other people are copying it because other people now do it. Because you copied it from somewhere else
for sure.
No one's original anymore, guys. It's all from the past. But I do love it when I know that I don't know you're at a meet and I'll hear it. I'm like, oh, Tuck's here. I mean,
Tuck's here
because it's like I've heard it so many times now. It's it's like your tone. Like I know your move versus someone else yelling out move. And it's like, oh, Tuck's here. That's cool. It's just I love that. That's cool. All right, last question, my friend. You get to define future however you want. 1 year, 5 years, 10 years down the road. What's got you excited as you look? We're staring. Excuse me. We're staring 2026. It's right there in front of us. You already mentioned this pretty good team on paper. They got to execute. What's got you excited about Eastern Washington University track and field?
I'm just going to double down on what I said. This team is amazing. And they're not on campus yet. Again, it's on paper, but what I'm seeing, what I like when I've talked to the returners about who's coming in, some conversations I've had with the returners in the summer, we look really good. I'm really excited. The incoming group, my staff is excited about their recruits coming in. Oh man, I'm looking forward to it. Again, I don't want to jinx myself and talk too much about it. On paper, it looks amazing. And what I'm seeing so far, we'll start practice the last Monday in September, and then I get to see if they've been working out over the summer. You give them. I'm not on them. I give them stuff. I may check in, see some people, how's it going, but I try to let them do what they're going to do, rather than make them feel. I don't want to guilt them into doing something.
Right.
And when things aren't going the way they are going, a lot of times I have a-hole mentality. And so if they're taking off reps in practice or not showing up or not giving, I always tell people, especially if it comes up in the January, early February, I always say, there's a place, I think Walmart, maybe Target, you can rent a DeLorean and you can go back in time to October. No, I don't think you understand. And they hate me because it's like, Coach, how can I fix this now? You can't. You had the opportunity to fix it. And then I say, so right now we're stuck. Now what we can do going forward? How can we fix this going forward? But it's not going to happen next week on practice. Not going to happen in the next meet. You got to understand and trust me that we got 4 weeks before conference. We have time to fix this. But you have to give me everything you got on the days that I require you to give me everything you got. If it's a recovery day, I want you to give me the best recovery you can give me. And so I like this group. And again, we'll find out that first week. I know a lot. First week of practice, I find a lot about what's going on. Oh, really? That was the warm-up.
Yeah, that's always the case. Yeah. Brother, man, I'm really proud of you, man. I'm really happy for you. When you got the job, I reached out, your leadership and you're the kind of guy, this actually, it sounds weird, but there's a handful of people like this. It's actually a compliment. You're one of the guys that's like, I don't remember how we met. Like, I've always known Tuck. I don't know, just always have. And your enthusiasm, your love for the sport. You are a track guy. It's funny how you started not even knowing sprints, jumps, hurdles, things like that. Your enthusiasm for the sport, and you've always been a leader at every place that you've been to, and you continue. I love your story because it shows like a growth in your leadership from being very concerned about myself and what I have to do to the group, to my team, and then to what I coach, and then now to the whole team. I'm going to go to the throws events, things like that, and now obviously as the head guy, the head coach there at EWU as well. So it's just cool to see that growth. I'm just so excited. I mean, I like when coaches are excited. It is a job at the end of the day. It should be supporting your wife and your kids and your passions and your future retirements and things like that. But we certainly should enjoy work. And you're the kind of guy that it feels like you have always enjoyed. I know there's been ups and downs, and there always is in any profession, but every time I see you, you always have a smile. You remind me a little bit of a younger version of Lonnie Green. Lonnie, I also a Gil podcast alum, guys, if you want to hear his story, amazing. But Lonnie, every time I'd see him in Arkansas, whatever, it's like, how you doing? Oh, I'm blessed, Mike. Oh, I'm blessed. He's like, I'm always blessed. You are the like physical embodiment of that. Every time I see you, it's like, oh man, that dude's blessed. Like he's having a good time, even though he's mad right now because the 4x1 did whatever, blah blah. But he would rather have that frustration than any other frustration in the world right now. You just enjoy being a coach, and it is so true. Before you could see it, and the superpower of a coach is they see things in other people before they can see it themselves. You had coaches see Coach Tucker in you way before you could even imagine that that's what you were going to be, as you set yourself off to be a lawyer to start out with. I think that's
right.
You'd have been a great lawyer, by the way. That would have been a lot of fun too. But
probably.
But I'm very.
Might have a lot of money right now.
Well, you'd have more. That's for sure. Yeah. That's for sure. But I'm blessed, and we're all blessed that you chose the track coaching world, man. So I'm super excited for you. Can't wait. I know it's going to come to fruition. It's going to come to exactly even better than you think it's going to be, man. So Tuck, man, thank you.
Appreciate it.
The most important thing, most valuable thing you can give me is your time, man. I'm just so grateful. We've been going for 2.5, probably is what the final's going to be here. We can go another 2.5, bro. I rushed into something because I'm like, well, we got to get going here. But I'm just your journey fascinates me, and I'm super excited and humbled that you allow us to share it with our listeners, man. So thanks again for being here today.
Yeah. I appreciate you. I see all athletes. I see everybody, and that's one thing that a lot of coaches sometimes miss. And I try to make sure that before every practice, I fist punch the athletes and eye to eye, how's your day? You just got to see them. So I see you too, and I appreciate you.
Yeah, I love you, brother. Appreciate that. Guys, thank you for being here, man. Again, I told you I was excited about this story. There's parts that I forgot as we got into it. I thought I knew his journey pretty well for being, a friend with him for quite a while now. But fascinating. Again, I love the growth. I hope his story helped you, hope it's some motivation, some emboldenment there, and that, there's a lot of things you can do no matter where you are today. You are where you're supposed to be today, but there's greater and better things for you. And I can't wait. Tucker, he said he's going to live to 120, so he's going to coach for even longer. He said 23 years as head coach. He's in year 3, so we got at least 20 more years. So I can't wait to do check-ins every 5, 10, 15 years and continue the growth, because he's not even at halftime, man. He's still got a lot to go forward, and I'm excited to see that and bring that to you guys as well. So thanks again for being here this week. Join us next week. We'll do it all over again. Thanks, guys.